Leo had assumed Isabelle would just have the head butler drive them back to their respective dorms. But halfway there, he realized the sleek black car was heading toward the Thornton estate. Aren't you going back to the dorm tonight? To see Haley and the others? He asked. Isabelle shook her head slightly. No, since they already booked their flights to New York to see me in a few days, there's no point in showing up unexpectedly. Besides, I have some work to handle at the Crestview branch tomorrow morning. Waking up that early would just disturb them. Fair enough, Leo nodded, not giving it much thought. He wasn't planning on staying in his dorm anyway. This just meant more time with her. 30 minutes later, the car glided through the gates of the Thornton estate. As they pulled up to the entrance, Lester, the family's long-serving driver and butler, spoke from the front seat. Miss Isabelle, I've already rearranged your schedule. You won't need to be up until 8 tomorrow morning. Both you and Mr. Yeager can rest in. You've been keeping very late hours these past few days. A flicker of a smile, almost imperceptible, touched Isabelle's lips before vanishing. Her expression returned to its usual cool composure. Thank you, Lester, she said, nodding. Inside, Isabelle sent Lester to make Leo a cup of tea to help with any lingering effects of the alcohol, then went upstairs to shower. In truth, Leo hadn't had much to drink. Gabe Tion and his friends weren't business partners or industry titans. He felt no need to force himself to drink just to impress them. He drank when he wanted and politely refused when he didn't. In that moment, Leo understood the true freedom of the successful. It wasn't about being able to do whatever you wanted. It was about having the power to not do what you didn't want to do. While Isabelle was in the shower, Leo, feeling a bit bored, struck up a conversation with Lester, who was preparing a fruit platter for them. Lester, how on earth did Isabelle manage to pull in a foreign investment giant like UL Investments? Or was that you working your magic behind the scenes? Lester shook his head. Mr. Yeager, you overestimate me. While I have been quietly helping Miss Isabelle prepare for her counter-move against Mrs. Thornton's ambitions, I am ultimately just her driver and butler. I don't possess that kind of power, or I wouldn't still be a driver and butler. The groundwork I've been able to lay over the years was only possible because her mother was so generous to the company's shareholders. They never forgot her kindness. That's why, even before Mrs. Thornton revealed her true colors, they were willing to help Miss Isabelle with certain matters behind her father's back and keep it quiet. He paused, setting down a perfectly sliced apple. But the UL Investments deal, I knew nothing about it until after Mr. Thornton was taken in for questioning by the feds. I was as shocked as anyone. We had assumed Mrs. Thornton merely wanted equal footing in Thornton Industries. We never imagined she would try to destroy him. After all, she's carrying his child. Our initial plans were only designed to protect Mr. Thornton's position within the company, not to defend against a federal investigation or a hostile takeover. If Miss Isabelle hadn't brought in UL Investments when she did, the situation would have spiraled out of control. Leo understood. The UL deal was entirely Isabelle's doing, without even Lester's help. That only deepened his curiosity. How had she pulled it off? Seeing Leo's thoughtful expression, Lester smiled. Mr. Yeager, Miss Isabelle has been incredibly busy, and I'm sure you didn't want to disturb her. It seems you two haven't had much time to talk. If you don't mind, I can tell you everything I know. Leo raised an eyebrow. I'm all ears, Lester. Lester pushed the platter of fruit toward him and began. While I don't know the specifics of how she secured UL, I'm familiar with the other pieces, as I was tasked with executing most of them. After Mr. Thornton was detained, just as the news reported, several investors pulled out, his projects were halted, and assets were frozen. A few board members even publicly denounced him. This was all Mrs. Thornton's doing, of course. The goal was to manufacture a crisis, then sweep in with her pre-packaged solutions and a slate of investors she'd already lined up in private. She'd have the dissenting board members flip to her side, and just like that, control of Thornton Industries would fall in her lap with minimal effort. But Miss Isabelle anticipated this. Lester continued, a hint of pride in his voice. Her plan was for me to work with a few loyal shareholders to convince some key investors not to pull out, just to slow Mrs. Thornton's timeline. It wasn't much, but it was something. For the first time, Lester looked almost bashful. Actually, I may have helped a bit more significantly there. My younger brother is the head butler for Mr. Shun of the Shun Corporation. Like me, my brother has served in that family for decades, and his relationship with Mr. Shun goes far beyond that of a simple employee. After my brother explained the situation, Mr. Shun agreed that the Shun Corporation would not be the first to withdraw its investment when the trouble started. Leo's jaw practically hit the floor. He knew the Shun Corporation. It was a domestic powerhouse, even bigger than Thornton Industries, with a global reach. and Lester had secured their support not through formal negotiations, but through a back-channel family connection. Lester, are you kidding me? Your brother's connections are insane. Lester offered a small smile. I didn't hold out much hope, but it worked. Perhaps it's because my brother has not only been by Mr. Shin's side for decades, but he also watched Mr. Shin's daughter grow up. That kind of loyalty builds a unique kind of influence. Leo nodded, still reeling. Damn. He had always thought of Lester as a kindly driver and butler who just happened to enjoy cheesy soap operas about long-lost heirs. Now it seemed Lester had the power to actually be one of those long-lost heirs if he wanted to. Half an hour later, Isabelle reappeared, freshly showered and wearing a pink silk pajama set. She stood at the top of the sweeping staircase, looking down at Leo on the sofa. Leo. Yeah. He looked up, his eyes immediately drawn to her long, pale legs. She lifted her chin, her voice cool, but with an underlying warmth. Come upstairs. I'm getting tired. It had been a while since Leo had stayed the night with Isabelle. Now, alone with her in the bedroom, a surprising wave of awkwardness washed over him. He felt like a nervous teenager again, especially after the bold text he'd sent a few days ago, promising he wouldn't be so polite next time they were together. Yet here he was, sitting on the edge of the bed, too shy to even take her hand. After a few seconds of silence, Leo cleared his throat. Ahem. I was talking to Lester while you were in the shower. He told me a bit about your plan to counter your stepmom's takeover. Isabelle murmured, a soft, simple affirmation. She seemed perfectly at ease, sitting beside him, her eyes shimmering as she watched him. None of his awkwardness seemed to affect her. Steeling himself, Leo finally asked the question that had been burning in his mind for days. Lester said he didn't know how you landed a giant like UL Investments. So, how did you do it? Isabelle considered this for a moment. Landon Archer made the introduction, she said. When he was studying in the UK, he met Alan, the CEO's younger brother. Alan had just been given some authority within the company, and they were looking to expand into the U.S. market. They chose to invest in Chatterjee. To find other promising ventures, Alan was scouting American companies. Landon knew about my plans with Lester, so he suggested to Alan that UL should invest in Thornton Industries at the right moment. I only found out about all of this after Landon came back. Leo wasn't entirely surprised. He'd suspected Landon had brought the UL connection back from the UK with him, but he'd done his research. The Archer family's company had no overseas projects, no known partnerships with foreign entities. That was the part that didn't add up. For Landon to convince UL to take such a massive risk on a company in crisis, he would have had to offer something substantial in return. Yet, on paper, there was no connection, no clear benefit for UL. Landon and Alan must have met while they were both in school, right? Leo asked. Yes. So how did Landon convince him? Even for a fund as aggressive and wealthy as UL, announcing a major investment in a company whose chairman is under federal investigation is reckless. It goes against every rule of investing. Isabelle bit her lip, looking like she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. Seeing her hesitation, Leo realized he might be prying into something sensitive. He waved a hand dismissively. Hey, it's fine. If you can't tell me, don't. It's a business secret, I get it. But she immediately shook her head. It's not that. Then what is it? Leo's curiosity was now fully piqued. Finally, after another moment of deliberation, she looked at him, her expression a mix of reluctance and resolve. Alan, he's Landon's boyfriend. The words hit Leo like a lightning bolt, and everything clicked into place. Oh, so that's it. If he's his boyfriend, then that makes sense. He stopped mid-sentence as the full implication registered. His eyes went wide, his brain short-circuiting. Wait, what? He stared at her, utterly dumbfounded. You're telling me Alan is Landon's boyfriend? Does that even compute? Leo's mind was blown. Landon is a man. Alan is a man. Alan is Landon's boyfriend. He understood each sentence individually, but strung together, they felt like a paradox. He knew Landon wasn't interested in girls, but hearing it confirmed so directly still left him speechless. If the brother of UL Investment CEO was Landon's partner, then of course Landon could easily arrange the investment in Thornton Industries. It explained everything. Seeing Leo's stunned expression, Isabelle let out a rare, wry smile. I was surprised too when I found out. I never thought he'd actually find a boyfriend while he was studying abroad. Does his family know? She shook her head. Leo got it. That was a conversation you couldn't just have. He imagined it from a parent's perspective. Your handsome, 20-something son, who you've raised your whole life, suddenly brings home an even more handsome man and kisses him right in front of you. What father is prepared for that? With the mystery of UL Investments solved, a weight lifted off Leo's shoulders. Landon viewed Isabelle as a sister. The connection was rock solid. He could only imagine Sharon Thornton's reaction if she ever found out the truth. She thought Landon was there to drive a wedge between him and Isabelle. Instead, he'd returned from abroad with the perfect wedding gift for his surrogate little sister. The conversation had broken the last of the awkwardness between them. Seeing Isabelle yawn, Leo gently put his arm around her. "Let's get some sleep. You've had so many late nights in New York. You can finally rest." Isabelle pouted. "I'm not sleepy right now." Question mark. Leo blinked. "But you just told me downstairs that you were tired and wanted to come up." A flicker of something unreadable crossed her face. For a moment, she just looked at him with a faintly wounded expression before sighing dramatically. "Oh, right. I'm exhausted. You can get the lights." "Okay, get under the covers," he said, not thinking anything of it as he padded over to the light switch. Click. The room plunged into darkness. Leo turned to get into bed, feeling the exhaustion from the long day at the conference finally settling in. But when he turned back, Isabelle was still sitting on the edge of the bed, not under the covers at all. Her bare feet dangled in the air, swinging gently, her long, pale legs illuminated by the moonlight filtering through the window. Suddenly, a small blue box slipped from the pocket of her silk pajamas and fell to the floor with a soft thud. She let out a little gasp of mock surprise. Leo looked down. On the floor was a box of Blue Devils. He froze, and in that instant, he finally understood why she had suddenly decided she wasn't sleepy anymore. A slow grin spread across his face. "You know," he said, his voice low, "I don't think I'm tired either." He bent down, picked up the box, and with a predatory glint in his eyes, closed the distance between them, capturing her soft, sweet lips with his own. The next morning, Isabelle drifted awake from a sweet dream. She rolled over lazily, her consciousness hovering somewhere between sleep and reality. She reached out instinctively for Leo, but her hand met only empty sheets. Her eyes flew open in a mild panic. The space beside her was empty. He was gone. She sat up, her gaze catching on the window. Sometime during the night, a silent snow had fallen, blanketing the world in a pristine layer of white. The branches of the estate's ancient trees drooped heavily, laden with snow. But she barely noticed. All she could think was that Leo was gone. His clothes weren't on the chair where he'd left them. She swung her legs out of bed to go look for him, but a sudden weakness in her knees made her falter. A blush crept up her cheeks as she remembered just how impolite Leo had been last night. Shaking it off, she pulled on a robe and hurried downstairs. The first floor was empty too, except for a glass of warm milk and a plate of toast set out on the dining table. Lester, ever present, emerged from the kitchen and smiled. "Good morning, Miss Isabelle." "Good morning, Lester. Where's Leo?" "Where did he go?" she asked, a note of anxiety in her voice. Every other time she'd woken up next to him, he was still there. This was the first time he was gone. "Mr. Yeager had the head butler drive him back to the university about 20 minutes ago," Lester replied. "He asked me to tell you that he knows you have a busy day ahead. He said if he waited for you to wake up, you'd have a hard time saying goodbye, and it might make you late for your work. He warmed the milk for you himself before he left. He said to be sure you eat breakfast and to text him when you're up." "He's gone." Isabelle's face fell. She knew he was being considerate. He was right. If she had woken up to find him there, with the snow falling outside, all her legendary discipline would have evaporated. She wouldn't have wanted to go to work at all. Still, even knowing his intentions were good, she felt a pang of disappointment. She sighed softly, went through her morning routine, and sat down at the table, taking small, listless bites of the toast and sipping the milk Leo had left for her. Just then, Lester approached, holding a beautifully wrapped box. "By the way, Miss Isabelle," he said with a warm smile, "Mr. Yeager also asked me to give this to you after you finish your breakfast." Isabelle tilted her head. "What is it?" he said. "It's a surprise." Her lashes fluttered. She quickly took the large box from Lester. She had been so wrapped up in seeing Leo that she'd completely forgotten about the surprise he'd mentioned. She had assumed he'd forgotten, too. Eagerly, she began to unwrap it, her movements careful, as if she couldn't bear to tear the wrapping paper. She lifted the lid and saw a pair of exquisite white high heels nestled inside. Beneath them, she discovered a second layer. She lifted the partition and found a pair of classic Converse sneakers. Next to them was a small card. She recognized Leo's familiar handwriting at once. "I know you never like showing anyone your vulnerable side, that you hide behind a cool exterior. I know you're doing all this to prove yourself to your father, to show him you're not just someone who needs protecting. You gave me my first suit. I wanted to give you your first pair of high heels. I hope you can rock the flats, just as well as you command the heels. What I'm trying to say is you could be a boss, and you could be the girl next door. I love every version of you. The few short lines on the card made her eyes well up instantly. A tear fell onto one of the white heels, and in its reflection, she pictured Leo in a shoe store, earnestly asking the sales clerk for advice, trying to pick the perfect pair for her. Isabelle's tears gave way to a watery smile. She whispered to the empty room, "You idiot." 11 in the morning. At the Crestview villa of Simon Leong, a Thornton Industries board member. Simon sipped his wine, a smug grin on his face. Yesterday, he'd received his payment for helping Sharon Thornton denounce Richard Thornton and sabotage several company projects. Even though the sudden appearance of UL Investments had disrupted Sharon's original plan, Simon didn't care. Whether Thornton Industries was ultimately run by Thornton or a Shao, his own interests were secure. He'd helped Sharon and Chris Jung advance her ambitions simply for the handsome payout. Now that Sharon was on the defensive, it was no concern of his. He had his money. The rest was irrelevant. Ding dong, ding dong. The doorbell chimed. Holding his wine glass, Simon ambled over and opened the door. The moment he saw who was standing on his porch, his smile froze. Miss Isabelle." Simon blinked, quickly masking his panic with a fawning grin. "Miss Isabelle, what a surprise. Are you here about your father? Please, you and Lester come in. It's cold out here, we can talk inside." Isabelle made no move to enter. Her face was a blank mask. "Mr. Leong, I'm giving you one day to compile all the evidence of how you and Chris Jung helped Sharon Thornton undermine the company's interests and projects." She cut him off before he could speak. "Don't bother with excuses. If I don't have what I want by midnight tonight, I trust that the next people to ring your doorbell will be the same federal agents who took my father." Simon Leong stared at the impossibly assertive young woman before him, his brow furrowing. "I helped take down your father," he thought. "Even your powerhouse of a stepmother has to treat me with a degree of respect. And you're young enough to be my daughter. Who gave you the nerve to speak to me like this?" Frankly, calling her Miss Isabelle was a courtesy. He didn't have to. She wasn't the untouchable Thornton heiress anymore. In a matter of time, Thornton Industries might not even be named Thornton. His fawning expression hardened into something more cynical. "Miss Isabelle, I have no idea what you're talking about. Mr. Jung and I are loyal shareholders of Thornton Industries. While we may not be the old guard who built the company with your father, we've been key figures in recent years. Why would we do anything to harm the company? Besides, isn't Sharon your mother? Are you suggesting your own mother is the mastermind behind this? That sounds like a family matter you should discuss with her. I don't see how Mr. Jung and I are involved." His response was airtight, but Isabelle's expression remained unchanged. She simply stared at him, her gaze unwavering. Lester, standing behind her, produced a manila folder from his briefcase. He smiled politely. "Mr. Leong, perhaps you should take a look at this." Simon didn't move. He glanced at the folder with disdain. "Lester, I can't accept anything from Miss Isabelle right now. For all I know, she's trying to bribe me to slander Mrs. Thornton, and the payment is in that envelope. If someone saw that and word got back to Mrs. Thornton, my position at the company would be untenable. And with her father under investigation, it would be highly inappropriate for me to accept anything from his daughter during this sensitive time. I really must insist you look, Mr. Leong," Lester said, his smile never wavering, though it now had a sharp edge. "I believe your attitude will change once you do." Simon, accustomed to being treated with deference, finally lost his temper at being lectured by the family driver. He slammed his wine glass onto the entryway floor, where it shattered. "Lester," he roared, "you're nothing but the Thorntons' dog. Who the hell do you think you are, talking to me like that?" Despite the outburst, the smile remained fixed on Lester's face. He calmly opened the folder himself, laying out a series of photographs and reports one by one for Simon to see. As Simon's eyes scanned the documents, the color drained from his face. His arrogant posture crumbled, replaced by a tremor that ran through his entire body. His pupils constricted in sheer terror. He couldn't believe it. The things he'd done for Sharon, the secrets he thought were perfectly hidden. Isabelle had proof of everything. If this got out, even if he avoided prison, he'd be financially ruined. His reputation would be destroyed, and he'd be blacklisted from the business world forever. Now he understood Lester's confidence. The fight went out of him completely. "Lester, Mr. Yearwood," he stammered, his voice dripping with sycophancy. "I was just joking with you and Miss Isabelle. Of course, I'll prepare everything you need. Please just don't release any of this." Before Lester could reply, Isabelle's expression turned to ice. Her voice was colder than the winter air. "Apologize to him. Miss Isabelle, Simon was willing to grovel to her, but he'd be damned if he'd apologize to a driver. It was unthinkable. He was Simon Leong, a major shareholder in Thornton Industries. He was a man of status. Apologize to a servant? Never. Isabelle's gaze was unyielding. Apologize to Lester, or this conversation is over. Even Lester was taken aback. The evidence Simon held was critical. Without it, their plan to counter Sharon would be severely weakened. Besides, Lester himself hadn't taken the insult to heart, but his young miss clearly had. "Miss Isabelle, you don't have to do this for me," he murmured. She shook her head, her eyes still locked on Simon. "I'll say it one last time. Apologize to him. Otherwise, I don't care what evidence you have. Your fate is your own." "Miss Isabelle." Lester's voice trembled slightly as he looked at her resolute profile. She's really grown up, he thought. She was no longer the little girl who would hide behind him and cry when she was hurt. She could stand on her own now, and she could stand up for him. She truly saw him as family. Simon Leong watched her, his fists clenching at his sides. He was trapped. He knew that if she released that file, his life was over. But to surrender meant apologizing to Lester Yearwood. And once Sharon was out of the picture, Isabelle would be in control. His future at the company would be bleak either way. He would lose his dignity now and his position later. It was all his fault. His greed had led him here. After a long, agonizing moment, Simon Leong grit his teeth and bowed deeply to Lester. "I'm sorry, Mr. Yearwood. I was out of line. I'm a Thornton's dog." Lester nodded silently, his gaze shifting to Isabelle. Seeing Simon's submission, Isabelle's expression softened slightly. "My demand remains the same," she said coolly. "I want what I asked for by midnight." With that, she turned and walked away with Lester. Simon Leong swallowed hard, forcing a smile as he watched them go. "Take care, Miss Isabelle." Long after Isabelle left, Simon Leong remained slumped against the doorframe, a daze settling over him. By the time he snapped out of it, the afternoon sun was already low in the sky. He stumbled inside, the reality of his situation crashing down. It was over. The only thing he could do now was try to stay out of prison. He'd thought that with Richard Thornton out of the way, Sharon would easily seize control of the company. But now it was clear that her stepdaughter was every bit as formidable as her father had been in his prime. Simon let out a bitter laugh. Greed. It always came down to greed. If he had just been content with his multi-million-dollar dividends as a shareholder, he wouldn't now be at the mercy of a girl his son's age. The one thing he couldn't figure out was how she'd gotten the evidence. The photos Lester had shown him were clearly taken by a private investigator, not random security cameras. A horrifying thought began to form in his mind. Isabelle must have known about Sharon's ambitions long ago. She had been preparing for this day for years. "Richard Thornton, you old fool," Simon muttered to himself. "You probably never imagined that the daughter of your first wife, the one you'd all but ignored, would be the one to save you from ruin." As he stood there, his phone rang. It was Chris Young. "Hello, Chris." Chris's voice was frantic. "Simon, Richard Thornton's daughter just came to see me. She had photos of us meeting with that woman, evidence of everything we did. She gave me until midnight to hand over everything she wants. Or else. What the hell is going on?" Simon sighed. "She paid me a visit too. Just do what she says, Chris. Don't hold anything back. This girl is just as ruthless as her father." "Are you crazy? Do you know what happens if we hand that stuff over? Even if she lets us off the hook, you know what that psycho Sharon is like. She set up her own husband. You think she'll let us walk away?" Chris was practically screaming into the phone. Simon felt utterly defeated. He was silent for a long moment before responding. "Chris, we all know it was Isabelle who brought in UL Investments. We thought it must have been the old guard, the shareholders loyal to Richard, pulling strings behind the scenes. But think about it. Who is UL Investments? They're backed by one of the most powerful financial groups in the UK. Do those old guys really have that kind of pull? I suspect Isabelle orchestrated the entire deal herself. And if that's true, doesn't that make her even scarier than Sharon?" The line went quiet. After a few seconds, Simon heard the sound of glass shattering, followed by Chris's voice, raw with defeat. "Simon, is this it? Are we really going down like this? I can't accept it. What choice do we have? We should have known this day would come when we sided with Sharon. Damn it. Just get the files ready. Our only hope now is that Isabelle remembers we were once friends of her father and doesn't completely destroy us. What if we call Sharon?" Chris asked, a desperate edge to his voice. "You're grasping at straws." Simon snapped. "Sharon can barely save herself right now. What makes you think she can help us? Look, you're greedier than I am. I'm scared and I'm folding. I'm sending Isabelle what she wants. You do whatever you want." Fine. I'll send it." After leaving the Thornton estate that morning, Leo had the driver take him straight back to campus. He just arrived when he got a text from Isabelle. It was a picture of her feet, adorned in the new high heels. He had to admit, her feet were perfect. The photo alone was enough to make his head spin. He texted back, telling her he couldn't wait to see her wear them in person when the weather got warmer. Her reply was swift. You only get to see them this once. Why? You're not going to wear them out? I'll wear them. Just not right now. Leo didn't quite understand what she meant, but before he could ask, she sent another message saying she had to get back to work and that he wasn't allowed to talk about the shoes anymore. At 6 o'clock that evening, as Leo and Rex were leaving class, he got a call from P15.She. Hey, Leo, you busy? Just got out of class. What's up? It's Miles's birthday today, Kevin said. Let's go buy him a cake and take him out to dinner. Leo froze, checking the date on his phone. Sure enough, it was Miles's birthday. He'd been so preoccupied lately that the date had completely slipped his mind. Crap, Leo said, embarrassed. I've been so swamped, I totally forgot. I figured you were busy with your company and the campus queen, Kevin teased. That's why I'm calling. I already ordered a cake yesterday, and I picked out a restaurant. We just have to go pick it up, then we can head to Miles's campus. All right, I'll drive over to your school now. Kevin coughed. About that. I'm already at your school. Just dropped off Clara. 5 minutes later, Leo met up with Kevin. He'd caught the tail end of Kevin giving Clara a hug, which left her blushing as she playfully smacked his arm before scurrying off with her roommates. Let's go, Leo, Kevin said, clapping him on the shoulder. I just texted Miles. He's on campus, so we can go straight there. Leo rolled his eyes. Wow, not even trying to hide the PDA anymore. She's my girlfriend. Why would I hide it? Says the guy who used to turn beet red every time he so much as held her hand. A blush crept up Kevin's neck. Whatever, man, let's go, he said, pushing Leo forward. The bakery's going to close. Look at you, what a big shot. Leo and Kevin picked up the pre-order cake from a shop called A Taste of Summer and then drove straight to Miles's university. On the way, Kevin gave Leo an update. Hey, so I've pretty much got the hang of the work you assigned me at the company. I met with the team you sent over last week, and we're all on the same page. Based on the metrics they gave me, we can start moving forward in the next couple of days. Good. I've been keeping tabs, Leo said. Keep it up. Right now, Starfall is basically a pig in a hurricane. We're flying high. Even if I make a few bad calls, the short-form video industry is booming so much that we won't fall, even if we don't progress. This is the perfect time for you to learn, to make mistakes and gain experience at zero cost. By the time the market stabilizes, you'll have all the knowledge you need. Got it. And what you said before, about Clara also, bring her to the office tomorrow. I'll set her up myself. Awesome. Half an hour later, they pulled up to the entrance of Miles's campus. A few minutes later, they saw him jogging out to meet them. He'd been working part-time as a martial arts coach at a local dojo, and he looked leaner than ever. Leo, Kevin, Miles grinned, sliding into the back seat. What are you guys doing here? I actually have a night off today. Perfect timing. Kevin held up the cake box. You idiot. It's your birthday, did you forget? Miles blinked, the information slowly processing. After a few seconds, he slapped his forehead. Oh man, my memory's shot. I completely forgot it was my own birthday. Thanks, guys, for remembering, and for the cake. Don't be an idiot, Kevin said. Back in the day, the three of us never bought cakes. Any extra cash went to the gaming lounge. Now that we're all making money, we can afford to splurge. Don't get too comfortable, though. When it's my birthday or Leo's, you'd better remember to get us a cake. Don't worry, man, you got it, Miles promised earnestly. By 8 o'clock, the three of them were seated around a bubbling hot pot. Outside, snow drifted down through the hazy glow of the streetlights. Inside, the rich aroma of broth and spices filled the air, and the steam rising from the copper pot warmed their faces. The restaurant was alive with the cheerful noise of diners and servers, a symphony of city life. Kevin raised his glass of beer. All right, a toast. It's been too long since the three of us did this. To Miles on his birthday, and to all of us finally making some real money. His voice was loud, his eyes bright with genuine joy. Leo and Miles grinned, raising their own glasses. The three cups clinked together heavily. Cheers! Leo slid a gift box across the table. Inside was a sleek, $300 automatic watch. Happy birthday, Miles. Kevin followed suit, handing over a box of new basketball shoes and clapping Miles on the shoulder. Happy birthday, man. Hope you get rich like Leo. And, live forever. Staring at the two gifts, Miles's eyes welled up. He swallowed hard, his voice thick with emotion. Thanks, Leo. Thanks, Kevin. Leo was surprised. He'd never seen the tough, stoic Miles get teary-eyed. Well, Miles, what's with you? You go to college for a few months and turn into a softie, he teased. Miles wiped his eyes, managing a smile. I'm just really moved. You guys have always looked out for me, Treated me like a real brother since the day we met. I just wish I had something to give back to you. Hey, shut up with that, Kevin cut in. We're brothers, man. We don't need blood to prove it. It's just a couple of gifts. Now suck it up before I make you cry for real. Men don't cry, you know that. Yeah. Miles quickly wiped his tears, then, setting his glass aside, picked up his beer bottle and chugged the whole thing in a single go, a gesture of pure gratitude. The three of them fell into easy conversation, just like they had in high school. As the night wore on, they all got progressively drunker. Toward the end of the meal, Leo, his face flushed, asked, Miles, how are your grandparents doing? They must be feeling a lot better since they got out of the hospital, right? Yeah, man, Kevin added. Leo and I were planning to swing by and visit them soon. It's been almost a year. At the mention of his grandparents, Miles's body went rigid. He didn't answer right away, instead staring down at his glass before draining it. He remained silent for a few more moments, his head bowed. Leo, Kevin, he said, his voice low. Actually, even if you guys hadn't taken me out for my birthday, I was going to call you. There's something I need to tell you. Seeing his friend's strange behavior, Leo sensed something was wrong. He sat up straighter, his expression turning serious. What is it? Miles hesitated, refusing to look up, as if afraid of what his brothers would say. Finally, he spoke again, his voice barely a whisper. So, I'm thinking of dropping out of school. I want to work at the dojo full-time. Leo's brow furrowed instantly. Drop out? Are you kidding me? You're already making at least $500 a month there part-time, right? That's enough for your expenses. Why drop out? You can go full-time after you graduate. Miles nodded slightly, his voice getting even quieter. Yeah, 500 is more than enough. I'm pretty frugal. I barely spend 100 a month on myself. Then why drop out? You're not in some kind of gambling debt, are you? Kevin asked, his voice rising in alarm. The sudden loudness of his voice seemed to be the final straw. Miles's composure shattered. He looked up, and Leo and Kevin were shocked to see tears streaming down his face. Guys, he sobbed, they found out last week. My grandpa has lung cancer. The doctor said he needs to start chemo right away if he wants to live. Each round is thousands of dollars. They said we need at least $30,000 up front just to start, not even counting the targeted therapy drugs. He choked on his words. You guys know my family. We don't have that kind of money. My grandparents spent everything they had raising me, putting me through school. There's nothing left. If I don't drop out and start earning real money now, my grandpa is going to die. He's going to die. Lung cancer. The words hung in the air, instantly sobering Leo and Kevin. They were stunned. Miles, who had seemed so normal all evening, had been carrying this catastrophic weight alone. Now it all made sense. The plan to drop out. The tears over a simple birthday gift. He had been holding it all in, teetering on the edge of a breakdown. Now he was sobbing uncontrollably, his body shaking. Leo, his own drunken haze completely evaporated, reached out and put a steadying hand on Miles's shoulder. Miles, why didn't you tell us? He said softly. A thing this big. You shouldn't carry it alone. 30,000 is a lot of money, and I know you can't handle it by yourself right now. But Kevin and I, our careers are taking off. You said it yourself. We see you as a brother. We would never just stand by and do nothing. He paused, his voice firm and unwavering. That 30 grand, we're going to hospital right now. I'll pay it. Your grandpa's treatment can't be delayed. Miles shook his head, his voice choked with tears. Leo, I can't take your money. I know 30,000 isn't a huge amount for you, but you earned it. You have Isabelle to think about, and her family's company is going through its own crisis. You need that money more than I do. I can't be another burden. Besides, once money gets involved between friends, things get weird. I don't want to risk what we have. He wiped his face with his sleeve. My stuff is already packed. I'm moving into the dojo tomorrow. The owner is a good guy. He knows I'm in a bind and gave me a 3-month advance on my salary. It's enough for the first round of chemo. I'll figure out the rest. Before Leo could respond, Kevin slammed his hand on the table, his voice booming with anger. Miles, what the hell are you talking about? He stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. Ruin our friendship? Is that what you think of us? You think a few $1,000s is going to change anything between us? What kind of friends do you take us for? Kevin pulled a debit card from his wallet and slapped it on the table. There's 15 grand on this. It's money I don't need right now. I was going to put it in a savings account tomorrow. You take it. You take it for your grandpa. If you consider us your brothers, you won't say another word about it. He leaned in close. But I'm warning you. You are not dropping out of school. You're going to finish your degree. End of discussion. Kevin. Miles started crying again, fresh tears splashing into his bowl. Kevin's right, Leo added. If you really see us as brothers, you won't refuse our help. Then, he shot Kevin an exasperated look and kicked him lightly under the table. Dude, can you dial back the drama? Isn't that the company card with the team bonuses on it? Or are you some kind of big shot now? I've got Grandpa's medical bills covered. Don't go mixing personal and business. If the other shareholders found out, you get a nasty letter from our lawyer. Caught in his act of grandstanding, Kevin's tough demeanor deflated. He scratched the back of his head sheepishly. Well, I was just trying to get the money to him fast. I was afraid if I waited, the stubborn idiot wouldn't take it. I'll transfer the money back tonight. Leo rolled his eyes, then pulled on his coat and called for a designated driver. He hauled Miles up from his chair. Let's go. To the hospital. Back in middle school, Kevin and I crashed at your place more times than I can count. Your grandparents always treated us like their own. We can't believe he's been sick this whole time, and you kept it from us. He probably thinks we're a couple of ungrateful jerks. Let's go see him. Leo, Kevin, no more talking, Leo interrupted. We're in this together. He's not just your grandpa. He's our grandpa. The three of us were family. At that, Miles broke down completely. Guys, he sobbed, I'm so lucky to have you. An hour later, after visiting Miles's grandfather, Leo and Kevin had gotten the full story from the attending physician. Fortunately, the cancer had been caught early. With aggressive treatment, his prognosis was good. He could live for many more years. Without a moment's hesitation, Leo paid for the entire initial course of treatment and the necessary targeted therapy drugs. Leo, I'll pay you back as soon as I can, Miles said, his gratitude palpable. Thank you. My grandparents raised me. I can't lose them. Don't worry about the money, Leo said seriously. Pay me back in 10 years for all I care. But Kevin and I are on the same page about this. You are not dropping out. The money is handled, so you have no reason to. If you're really worried about your grandpa and feel like you can't balance school and work, then take a leave of absence for a year. Go back when his treatment is stable. Dropping out is a rash decision. How are you going to find a girlfriend with just a high school diploma? And more importantly, your grandparents used their retirement savings to send you to college because they wanted you to have a better life, to not be at a disadvantage. If you drop out now, all their sacrifices will have been for nothing. Miles, much calmer now, listened intently. He knew Leo was right. It was an emotional decision, not a logical one. If his grandfather found out he dropped out, he would be consumed with guilt for getting sick in the first place. He nodded, his resolve firming. You're right. I'll apply for a leave of absence. Good. Now you. Leo was about to say more when his phone buzzed in his pocket. It was Lester. He frowned, answering with a sense of unease. Before he could even speak, Lester's voice, trembling and panicked, came through the line. The calm, composed man was gone, replaced by someone on the verge of tears. Mr. Yeager, it's Miss Isabelle. Something's happened. She just fell down a flight of stairs. She just fell down a flight of stairs. Lester's panicked words struck Leo like a physical blow. He stumbled back a step, his heart seizing in his chest. A cold dread washed over him. What happened to her? He demanded, his own voice shaking. How did she fall? Where's she now? She's at Crestview General Hospital. I'm on my way. The hospital he was at was only a few miles from Crestview General. He hung up and broke into a dead sprint, leaving a shocked Kevin and Miles calling after him. Leo, what's wrong? He didn't have time to explain. He just ran. He was terrified. If it had been a simple accident, Lester wouldn't have sounded so utterly broken. Something was terribly wrong. A dark suspicion took root in his mind. Sharon Thornton. Had Isabelle's counterattacks pushed her stepmother over the edge? Had she hired someone to push Isabelle down the stairs? He burst out of the hospital into the biting wind and snow. He'd been drinking, so he couldn't drive. He tried to hail a cab, but at nearly 11 o'clock at night in a snowstorm, the streets were empty. In a moment of pure desperation, he ran into the middle of the road. A car, driving cautiously through the snow, screeched to a halt just inches from him. The driver rolled down his window, his face contorted with rage. Are you trying to get yourself killed? It's a red light, you moron. If I hadn't slammed on the brakes, you'd be a hood ornament right now. You. Leo didn't waste time arguing. He wrenched open the passenger side door and slid into the seat. Crestview General Hospital. Now, do I look like your chauffeur? Get the hell out of my car before I... The driver trailed off as Leo pulled a thick wad of cash from his pocket, what was left over from the ATM withdrawal from Miles's grandfather, and slapped several $100 bills onto the dashboard. Drive. I don't need your damn money. Get out. Silently, Leo added several more bills to the pile. Don't think you can just buy your way. Slap. Leo threw the entire wad of cash onto the dashboard. Dozens of $100 bills fanned out across the slick plastic. The driver stared at the money, his jaw slack. The anger on his face vanished, replaced by stunned silence. He cleared his throat. All right, buddy, he said quietly. Buckle up. The driver, now handsomely compensated, understood the urgency. He gunned the engine, even running a red light to shave off precious minutes. 15 minutes later, they screeched to a halt in front of the emergency room entrance. "Thanks," Leo muttered, pushing the door open before the car had even fully stopped. The ground was a sheet of ice. He took 2 frantic steps, and his feet went out from under him, sending him sprawling. He ignored the searing pain and the mud soaking his clothes, scrambling back to his feet and sprinting into the hospital. Inside, he realized he had no idea where Isabelle was. He fumbled for his phone, called Lester again, and got a room number. As he ran through the sterile white corridors, he didn't even notice the tears streaming down his face. He was terrified of losing her, terrified that their last conversation, their last night together, would be their last. "Lester, how is she?" He spotted Lester sitting on a bench outside a hospital room, looking utterly broken. Several men in expensive suits stood nearby, their faces grim. Leo recognized a few of them from news articles. They were executives from the Crestview branch of Thornton Industries. It seemed the accident had happened at the office. The executives stared at Leo, their expressions a mixture of shock and curiosity at the sight of this disheveled, mud-stained young man. Lester looked up, his eyes old and tired. Seeing Leo's state, his own eyes reddened again. "Mr. Yeager," he said, his voice hoarse. "I'm so sorry. I failed to protect her." He took a shaky breath. But her mother was watching over her. She's going to be all right. The doctor said she has a sprained ankle and a mild concussion. They'd done a full workup. She hasn't woken up yet." A wave of relief washed over Leo, so intense it almost buckled his knees. A sprained ankle and a mild concussion. It wasn't worse. He peered through the small window in the door and saw her, lying still and pale in a hospital bed. The sight sent a fresh wave of pain through him. Just that morning, she had been safe in his arms. Now, she was unconscious in a hospital. His expression hardened. He turned to Lester, his voice low and serious. "What exactly happened? How did she fall?" Lester's face was etched with guilt. "We were supposed to fly back to New York tonight, but some issues at the branch office took longer than expected to resolve. We decided to stay the night and leave in the morning. When she was finished, the elevators in the building were out of service. The maintenance crew said it would be at least an hour." His eyes reddened again. "Miss Isabelle said that since we were staying, she wanted to see you again. To save time, she suggested we take the stairs. 10 floors isn't so bad." But the entire staff had been working late, so when the elevators went down, everyone headed for the stairwell at once. It was crowded. As we were going down, she slipped. She just slipped and fell. If I had just called for her security team to escort her down, this never would have happened. It's all my fault." Leo's heart ached. She had been trying to get back to him. That's why she'd been on those stairs. But he pushed aside his grief. The story was too neat, too full of coincidences. He looked Lester straight in the eye. "Lester, are you sure she slipped? In a crowded stairwell. Why was she the only one who fell?" "Mr. Yeager, what are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting," Leo said, his voice cold as ice, "that someone pushed her. I'm suggesting that someone pushed her." Lester's eyes widened in disbelief. Before he could respond, a booming voice cut in from the side. "Impossible." Leo and Lester turned to see one of the executives stepping forward. He was a powerfully built man in his 50s who looked more like a security guard than a corporate manager. "Mr. Yeager, this is Robert Reed, the vice president of the Crestview branch," Lester said quietly. Leo nodded curtly, his gaze fixed on Reed. "And why is it impossible?" Reed scoffed, his tone dismissive. "Because that entire building belongs to Thornton Industries. Everyone in that stairwell was an employee. We, the executives who had just finished a meeting with Miss Isabelle, were right there with her. Who would have the guts to push her in front of that many witnesses?" "That's exactly my point," Leo countered. "No one would expect someone to try something so brazen, so no one would have been paying attention to the people around her, would they? It would only take a second, a subtle shove when no one was looking. How can you be so certain that didn't happen?" Leo narrowed his eyes, studying the man's face. "Mr. Reed, why are you so adamant about denying this possibility? Unless..." Reed's face flushed with anger. "Insolence. You're just a kid. Why do you have to speak to me like that? Lester, who is this person? Miss Isabelle is still unconscious, and you bring some random stranger here? Get him out of here." Hearing Reed's disrespect, Lester's expression turned frigid. "Mr. Reed, I suggest you choose your next words very carefully. When Miss Isabelle wakes up, your continued employment as vice president may be up for review. Mr. Yeager is her boyfriend. What right do you have to speak to him in such a manner?" Her boyfriend." Reed's eyes bugged out, his jaw dropping. The anger and arrogance vanished from his face, replaced by pure shock. The other executives standing behind him gasped, their eyes wide with astonishment. They had all heard rumors that Miss Isabelle had a boyfriend, but they had assumed it would be some scion of another wealthy family. This mud-caked young man reeking of alcohol didn't fit the profile at all. Though he knew who Leo was now, Reed's tone remained belligerent. I don't care who he is. Miss Isabelle was not pushed. And if she was, I'll find the person who did it and personally break their hands. Leo ignored the insult. So, you're not 100% certain, are you? Which means the possibility still exists. That, Reed sputtered, but Lester cut him off, forcing a smile. Mr. Yeager, I think you're being a bit overwrought. I agree with Mr. Reed. Who would dare to do such a thing? The stairwell was incredibly crowded. To be honest, I almost lost my footing a few times myself. Besides, Miss Isabelle always takes the elevator. She's not used to stairs that steep. Leo looked at Lester, completely bewildered. Lester, you can't possibly. Mr. Yeager, let's wait until Miss Isabelle wakes up, Lester said firmly, cutting him off. Right now, her recovery is all that matters. Right. Leo clamped his mouth shut, though his mind was still racing. He joined Lester and the others, standing vigil in the hallway, watching Isabelle through the small window in her door. Around midnight, the executives began to receive calls. One by one, they approached Lester with apologetic expressions. Lester, please look after Miss Isabelle. You know we have to be at the office first thing in the morning. The work can't stop, especially not now, with both the chairman and Miss Isabelle unable to lead. Lester nodded tiredly. Understand. Go home and get some rest. There's nothing more you can do here tonight. After offering their apologies, the executives gave Leo a strained, respectful nod before hurrying away. Soon, only Leo and Lester remained in the quiet hallway. The moment they were alone, Leo turned to him, his voice low and intense. Lester, you know it as well as I do. How can there be so many coincidences? She comes back to Crestview, and the elevator in her own company building just happens to break down. All the executives and staff just happen to be working late and decide to leave at the exact same time. And out of all those people, she's the only one who falls? You can't possibly believe this wasn't deliberate. Why did you stop me back there? His voice rose with agitation. Based on everything we know, this is Sharon Thornton's name written all over it. And whoever did it must have had help from one of those executives. Lester sighed, his shoulders slumping. Mr. Yeager, of course I considered all of that. You're too emotional right now. Please calm down. If you're right, and one of those men was involved, what do you think would happen if you announced your suspicions in front of all of them? You'd just be warning them to cover their tracks. Leo froze. He had been so consumed by panic and anger that he hadn't thought rationally. Of course. Lester's deference to Reed. It had all been an act. So you were saying that for their benefit? Yes. Lester nodded, his gaze returning to the hospital room. Mr. Yeager, you should go in and see her. The truth is, she woke up a while ago. That was all a performance for them. Leo was floored. The image of Isabelle lying so still and pale in the hospital bed, supposedly unconscious, had been a lie. Or rather, she had simply been asleep, the coma a ruse for the benefit of Reed and the other executives. The shock quickly gave way to a grudging admiration. Lester had told him it was a mild concussion, and it was true that someone with a mild concussion wouldn't necessarily be unconscious for hours. It was even possible the concussion was so minor it barely registered, a diagnosis cooked up by Lester and a cooperative doctor to deceive their audience. With a nod to Lester, Leo pushed open the door to the hospital room. The moment he stepped inside, Isabelle stirred on the bed, her eyes fluttering open. When she saw him, his clothes caked with mud, his hair a mess, her own eyes reddened. She threw back the covers and, ignoring her sprained ankle, ran barefoot across the cold floor and launched herself into his arms. Did Lester call you? She whispered into his chest. He did. Leo held her tight, his voice gentle but laced with concern. How are your head and your ankle? You're not supposed to be walking on that. Isabelle buried her face deeper into his shirt, shaking her head. I'm fine. My head just bumped the wall. It's not serious. The concussion was for their benefit. But what about you? What happened to your clothes? Did you get into a fight? The entrance to the hospital was covered in ice. I slipped coming in. It's nothing. Hearing this, a wave of guilt washed over her face. I'm so sorry, Leo. I should have told you I was okay. Lester was in a panic when he called you. He didn't know yet that it wasn't serious. Hey, it's all right, Leo said, stroking her hair. As long as you're safe, that's all that matters. You scared the hell out of me. They stood there in silence for several minutes, just holding each other. Worried she would get cold, Leo scooped her up in his arms and carried her back to the bed. The tension that had been coiled in his gut since Lester's call finally began to unwind. He couldn't help but smile. "You're a pretty good actress, you know. I was standing out there watching you, and I completely fell for it." A blush colored her cheeks. "I wasn't acting," she mumbled into his shoulder. "I really was asleep." Question mark. Meanwhile, in New York City, at a private villa Sharon Thornton had purchased without her husband's knowledge. Jonathan entered the room, his head bowed. "Ma'am, we received word from Crestview. Isabelle Thornton fell down a flight of stairs. She hit her head and has a mild concussion. She's still unconscious." "Oomph. Lucky for her it's only a mild concussion," Sharon sneered, her expression glacial. She found out that afternoon that Isabelle had returned to Crestview and had met privately with Chris Jung and Simon Leong. Sharon had assumed the two men wouldn't be so easily intimidated by a young girl, that they would never betray her. But before evening fell, she received intel that both men were arranging for their families to leave the country. She knew immediately that Isabelle had successfully threatened them. The evidence of their collaboration would soon be in her stepdaughter's hands. While Zhang and Liang didn't have proof of all her dealings, if they revealed their secret meetings at the next shareholder meeting, it would significantly delay her plans to take over the company. That was a delay she couldn't afford, not with Isabelle steadily gathering allies. So, Sharon had decided to send a message. She'd instructed Jonathan to arrange an accident. If it took Isabelle out of the game permanently, all the better. If it was just a minor injury, that was fine too. It would serve as a warning. Cross her again, and the consequences would be far more severe than a simple fall. "I underestimated Richard's daughter," Sharon mused. "First, she somehow lands UL Investments. Then she convinces the Shun Corporation not to divest. And now she's gotten to Zhang and Liang. I was careless." She waved a dismissive hand. "No matter. I was wise to keep her confined to Crestview all these years. Her struggles now are just the desperate flailings of a cornered animal." She turned to Jonathan. "What is the status of the share acquisitions from the old board members? Once I have a controlling interest, it won't matter how many investors Isabelle brings in. They'll all just be making me richer." "Everything is proceeding as planned, ma'am," Jonathan replied. "However," Sharon's brow furrowed. "However what?" "My investigation shows that Isabelle has somehow retained the services of Conrad Shun. He's one of the top corporate litigation lawyers in the country, with a near-perfect success rate. He's flown to New York, apparently to prepare a case to clear her father's name. If Chun is involved, the evidence we submitted regarding tax evasion and bid rigging might be exposed as fraudulent." "Conrad Chun." Sharon repeated the name, her mind racing. After a moment, she looked up. "Is that the same Chun who's been the private counsel for all those coal barons and new money tycoons out in West Virginia?" "The very same, ma'am." "How is that possible?" Sharon scoffed. "He's on a massive retainer with the Appalachian Mining Consortium. Isabelle doesn't have the connections or the capital to hire him. Even if Chun wanted to help her personally, he would need the consortium's approval." Jonathan hesitated, looking uncomfortable. "Spit it out," Sharon commanded. He nodded, finally meeting her gaze. "Ma'am, the chairman of the mining consortium. His youngest son is Leo Yeager's roommate." "What?" The moment Sharon Thornton heard the news, she shot up from the sofa, her face a mask of pure shock. The calm composure she had maintained for weeks had finally shattered. Her expression twisted, darkening into a furious scowl. "Damn it all. How could it be such a coincidence? The son of the Appalachian Mining Consortium's president just happens to be that little bitch's boyfriend's roommate." "Yes, ma'am," Jonathan said, his voice shrinking with each word. He instinctively took a step back. "And you've probably heard, the president dotes on his 3 sons. He's given his older 2 control over parts of the family business to see who's most capable of taking over. It seems likely that his youngest son, the one in college, used the influence his father gave him to get Conrad Chun to take Isabelle's case." Just as he expected, his words sent Sharon into another rage. She hurled the water glass in her hand, and it exploded against the far wall. "Those idiots. They're just a bunch of kids. What do they know about corporate warfare? Acting on some stupid schoolboy friendship, they mobilized a man like Conrad Chun to help someone who offers them nothing in return." Sharon's voice trembled with a fury so intense it was practically vibrating through the room. She took several deep, ragged breaths, forcing herself to regain a sliver of control. "Jonathan." "Ma'am, I'm here. Contact Landon Archer immediately. I need to accelerate his projects and bring the Archer Group formally under the Thornton Industries umbrella, and arrange a meeting with Richard for tomorrow. I will not let that little bitch see him before I do." Sharon paused, her eyes narrowing to slits. "And one more thing," she murmured, a cruel smile playing on her lips. I'm very interested to see who she cares about more, her father or that boyfriend of hers. Isabelle wasn't seriously hurt, which was a profound relief to Leo. He decided to skip the dorm for the night, opting to stay at the hospital with her. Just as he was settling in, his phone buzzed with a call from Kevin. Leo, where'd you go? You took off in such a hurry, and you've been drinking. What happened? Kevin's voice was laced with concern. I wanted to call sooner, but I was afraid I'd be interrupting something important. Leo appreciated his friend's worry, but he didn't want to alarm him. He spun a small lie. It's nothing. My neighbor just wanted to see me. I was in a rush, so I didn't have time to tell you and Sean. Kevin's frantic tone immediately deflated. Oh, I thought it was some kind of emergency, he grumbled. Turns out you were just running off to see the campus queen. Aish, you two are perfect for each other. Both completely whipped. After hanging up, Leo noticed that Isabelle, who had been lying in bed pretending to be asleep, had scooted closer, her ears practically twitching. Leo narrowed his eyes and poked her on the forehead. You hear that? Knucklehead just called you whipped. Knucklehead is a good person. He's a real jerk? Wait, what? He calls you whipped, and you say he's a good person? Leo was baffled. Isabelle just lifted her chin, offering no explanation. Instead, she shifted over to the very edge of the hospital bed, patting the empty space beside her. Get in, she commanded coolly. Leo stared at the single bed, then back at her, a long silence stretching between them. Finally, he spoke. This might be a private room, but it's still a single bed. If I get in there with you and the bed collapses, we'll have to pay for it. It's just a bed. What? Leo was aghast. When did you become so reckless with money? Isabelle's lips formed a pout, her eyes turning pleading. Don't you want to sleep with me? I do. But if I give in, what's the difference between me and some corrupt king from ancient history? Leo said with mock righteousness, refusing to get on the bed. It wasn't that he was a saint. He was genuinely afraid the flimsy hospital bed would break. The headlines would be mortifying. CEO of rising media company, Starfall, breaks hospital bed with Thornton Industries heiress during late-night tryst. Just the thought made his skin crawl. Isabelle's lips tightened, clearly disappointed. But seeing Leo's resolve, she just huffed, turned her back to him, and pulled the blanket over herself. He could practically feel the cloud of gloom radiating from her. He hesitated for a moment, then sighed, kicked off his shoes, and slid under the covers behind her. He wrapped his arms around her soft, slender waist. Her body trembled slightly. I thought you said it would make you a corrupt king, she mumbled. Leo grinned. Then I'll be a corrupt king, he whispered, and you can be my partner in crime. Isabelle let out a soft humph, then turned over to face him. Squeezed together on the narrow mattress, their faces were inches apart, so close he could feel the warmth of her breath on his skin. She looked into his eyes for a long moment. Okay, she whispered. I'll be your partner in crime. Leo's grin widened until he thought his face would split. He was really starting to get into the role. He put on a serious expression and lowered his voice. Well, you didn't put up much of a fight. Are you trying to be my wicked queen? Can't I be, Your Highness? You absolutely can. Oh, a comfortable silence fell over the room. After a while, Leo spoke again, his voice soft. So you faked the concussion for the executives. If you go back to New York right away, they'll get suspicious, right? So I'll stay in Crestview for another day. But when I fell, I definitely felt a pair of hands push me. She pursed her lips, her tone turning icy. It had to be one of her people. Leo knew her was Sharon. At this point, the only person who would dare to do something so brazen was Isabelle's stepmother. A furious, protective instinct surged through him. He wanted to make her pay, to tear her down. He knew that to him. Right now, she was an immovable giant, but she had crossed the line. She had touched the one person he would protect at all costs. It didn't matter if she was a giant or the devil herself. He would find a way to drag her down. The raw hatred was so strong he worried Isabelle would see it on his face. He shut his eyes tightly. Okay, let's get some sleep. But Isabelle was too smart. How could she not guess what he was thinking? She also knew she couldn't change his mind. She pursed her lips, then suddenly shifted, climbing on top of him and straddling his waist. Leo's eyes flew open. He stared up at her, his voice trembling slightly. What are you doing? Get down. Someone might walk by and see. All traces of her cool demeanor had vanished. She was smiling down at him, a playful glint in her eyes. Her rosy lips parted as she leaned in close. Your Highness, she whispered, her voice a sultry purr. Let your queen have a look at your heart. The next morning, while Leo and Isabelle were still deep asleep, the phone under Leo's pillow began to vibrate violently. He shot upright, fumbling for the phone and hitting the silent button. He glanced nervously at Isabelle, but she hadn't stirred. He let out a breath of relief. He looked at the screen. Wasn't even 6:30. The caller was Lester. Leo didn't answer right away. He crept out of bed, tiptoed to the door, and slipped out of the room. As he was carefully closing the door behind him, ready to call back, the ringing stopped. A second later, he felt a tap on his shoulder. Mr. Yeager, good morning. Leo jumped, his body flinching as the last dregs of sleep were shocked out of him. He spun around, heart pounding, to see Lester standing there with a cheerful smile. Between the late night, the brutally early wake-up call, and now being scared half to death, a flare of irritation sparked in Leo's chest. But it was Lester, so he swallowed it down. Geez, Lester, you nearly gave me a heart attack, he grumbled. If you were already at the door, why waste time calling? You could have just knocked. Lester gave an apologetic smile. My apologies, Mr. Yeager. I didn't want to do it this way, but if I had knocked, I would have woken the young miss. Calling you seemed like the best option. I'm sure you wouldn't want her disturbed so early either. That's true, Leo conceded. But what's up? It's getting late, Mr. Yeager. I haven't informed the company executives that Miss Thornton has woken up, so they all still believe she's unconscious. They'll likely stop by on their way to the office this morning to show their concern. If you and the young miss are still in the same bed, well, I wouldn't be able to explain that. I had to get you up first. Leo nodded, understanding. The night before, Isabelle had outlined her plan. Her stepmother had sent someone to push her down the stairs. Next time, Sharon might do something even more drastic. This was just a warning. If Isabelle continued to openly defy her, Sharon wouldn't be so restrained. So, as a delaying tactic to lower Sharon's guard, Isabelle planned to slow down her counterattack, lulling her stepmother into a false sense of security. Then, when the time was right, she would strike back hard and dismantle Sharon's scheme to take over Thornton Industries once and for all, which meant that the fact Isabelle was perfectly fine couldn't get back to Sharon just yet. And among the executives who might visit this morning were Sharon's loyalists. Leo definitely couldn't be caught in bed with her. All right, Leo said, glancing back into the room at the still sleeping Isabelle. Lester, after this incident, I hope you'll be even more careful with her security. If you can, she should have a bodyguard with her at all times. We can't let anything like this happen again. He continued, his voice low and serious. Everything Isabelle is doing right now is to unravel the plan Sharon has spent years building. The children she had with Isabelle's father are probably just tools for her ambition. If you push a person like that into a corner, she might just decide to burn everything to the ground if she can't have it. Hearing Leo's concerns, Lester's expression grew solemn. He nodded firmly, his voice filled with conviction. Rest assured, Mr. Yeager, even if you hadn't said it, I would have done so. Years ago, when her mother had cancer, there was nothing I could do to save her. But now, I will do everything in my power to protect the young miss, and to help her take back everything that belongs to her and her father. Good. Thank you, Lester. Lester smiled faintly. Don't mention it, Mr. Yeager. Protecting her stopped being just a job a long time ago. After grabbing breakfast at a diner near the hospital, Leo drove back to campus. He had classes this morning, and this afternoon he needed to stop by Starfall to meet the first batch of influencers they were signing. For the next little while, the company's resources would be focused entirely on them. On top of that, in 2 days, he had to fly to San Francisco to sign some contract for their MCN certification with TikTok's head office. Back at CPI, he swung by his dorm to swap his mud-stained jacket from yesterday, then grabbed his books to head to his 8 a.m. with Rex and the guys. Rex's brow furrowed. Leo, what were you doing last night? Your clothes are a mess. Did you get into a fight? No, just took a fall. Rex's eyebrows shot up in surprise. Leo saw the look on his face and knew the little punk was about to seize the opportunity to roast him. He cut him off. Dude, if you're about to say something snarky, just don't. I'm running on fumes, and my patience is zero. Rex just clicked his tongue. What kind of person do you take me for? Who said I was going to mock you? Oh, then what were you going to say? Leo was genuinely surprised. Rex wasn't taking the bait. The sun hadn't risen in the west. Had it? Rex cleared his throat, his tone suddenly very serious. I was going to say, when you take a big fall in your personal life and get all roughed up, it's usually a sign that you're about to have a major breakthrough in your professional life. It's an omen of good fortune. Leo was confused. What does me falling have to do with good fortune? See, you're still young. You don't get it. Back home, my dad's generation is super superstitious about this stuff. He said that decades ago, he and a few of my uncles who struck it rich all had some random, clumsy fall right before their businesses took off. So that's the saying. Leo was about to argue, to declare himself a staunch rationalist who didn't believe in a word of that superstitious nonsense. But the words caught in his throat. He suddenly remembered the creepy old fortune teller they'd met during the airsoft game, the one whose predictions had all come true, down to the last detail. The protest died on his lips. Was the world really without mystery? He couldn't be so sure anymore. If everything was purely materialistic, how could that old woman's predictions have been so accurate? And how could he explain his own ability to hear Isabelle's thoughts? Well, Rex, Leo said with a sigh, I'll take your good omen. I hope I really do strike it big. Rex grinned. It's a sure thing. Don't just write it off as superstition. What's that saying? The universe works in mysterious ways. Leo finished for him. After his morning classes, Leo went straight to Mr. Campbell's office. Knock, knock, knock. Come in, came the voice from inside. Leo pushed the door open, a friendly smile on his face. He placed the coffee he'd bought on Mr. Campbell's desk. Hey, Mr. Campbell. Busy day. Figured you could use a coffee to power through. Oh, Leo, you didn't have to do that. Come on, how much was it? I'll Venmo you. Leo chuckled. That's not a very funny joke, sir. Everyone knows I'm a big-shot CEO now, making millions a minute. You think I'm going to ask my own advisor to reimburse me for a coffee? He intentionally exaggerated, keeping the mood light. A serious tone would have made things awkward, but simply refusing the money could have been misinterpreted as him testing Mr. Campbell's integrity, which could cause unnecessary trouble for his advisor. As expected, Mr. Campbell laughed and dropped the subject of paying him back. All right, you big shot. I won't argue with a few bucks. So what can I do for you? Leo grinned and rubbed his hands together. Well, I have a business trip to San Francisco the day after tomorrow. I need to sign some contracts and meet with some partners to discuss future collaborations. I'll probably be gone until next week. And things are busy at the company right now with signing new talent, so I might have to miss a class here and there. I figured for a longer absence like this, it was better to ask you in person. It's about taking time off. Mr. Campbell nodded, stroking his chin. Don't you worry about that. Just text me whenever you need to miss a class. Dean Wong already spoke to me about your situation. You're juggling a company and your coursework. Something has to give. And you can't just abandon the market, or the market will abandon you. So, focus a little more on the company. As for the classes you miss, with the dean's approval, you won't have to worry about your participation grades. And for exams. Honestly, with the practical knowledge and experience you have now, I'm sure you have a better grasp of the financial concepts than the students sitting in the classroom. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. And if, by some chance, you do end up failing a class, it's no big deal. Special circumstances, special treatment. We'll make sure you pass the makeup exam, no matter what. Is that allowed? Leo was floored. If Rex knew about this, he'd probably cry foul. Getting a personal pass from the advisor and the dean to skip class and still be guaranteed not to fail? Where was the justice in the world? Well, thank you, sir. I'll be sure to thank Dean Wong personally for the school's support. Mr. Campbell waved a hand dismissively. No need. Just keep promoting our university. That's the best repayment you can give. That afternoon, Leo dressed a little more formally than usual and then kicked the bathroom door where Rex was still meticulously styling his hair. Let's go, Rex. Stop messing with your hair. You're going to meet with influencer recruits, not going on a blind date. It's good enough. TCH, you don't get it, Rex said, his voice full of self-importance. You're the boss of Starfall. It doesn't matter how you dress. Everyone already knows you're the top dog. They'll look at you through that filter. I'm different. In their eyes, I'm just a talent manager. I have to look the part. How else am I supposed to command respect? He turned back to the mirror. Leo rolled his eyes. Just tell them your dad's a West Virginia coal baron. I guarantee you those female influencers will look at you in a whole new light. They'll be trying to crawl into your bed by nightfall. Shallow. Rex sniffed. I, the young master, have deigned to be Starfall's talent manager purely to scout for Bo, purely to help you find promising talent. I have no intention of revealing my trust fund baby status. These girls are for looking at, not dating. If my dad found out I was seriously involved with one of them, he'd break my legs. Too many gold diggers. Not the type you bring home. For all his love of looking at beautiful women, Rex was, at heart, a romantic. Leo sighed and resigned himself to waiting. While he waited, he recalled a news article he'd seen a few days ago about the Appalachian Mining Consortium. Hey, Rex, he said casually. I read recently about that consortium your dad's people set up back home. All the local coal barons and new money types. They say they're a tight-knit group. Your dad must be a member, right? Rex's expression shifted, but he didn't answer directly. Why do you ask? Oh, no reason. Just thinking long-term. Once the MCN is established, I was considering expanding into a more traditional media company. Developing artists, which means finding investors. The new money types and coal barons are always willing to throw money at talent, If your dad knows a lot of people in the consortium, maybe you could ask him to make some introductions for me down the line. Rex looked surprised. I guess I could. But do you know who the president of that consortium is? No idea. But I hear the group is a huge deal, so the president must be the king of kings. It's not like your dad is so connected he could get me a direct introduction to the president himself, right? At Leo's words, Rex's breath caught in his throat. His whole body started to tremble. It's here. It's finally here. The day has finally come. You arrogant dog. You flexed on me so many times. Now it's my turn to flex back, and flex hard. Rex fought to contain his glee, forcing a casual, nonchalant tone. You know, I might just have that kind of pull. I could probably introduce you to the president of the consortium. Leo rolled his eyes. All right, man. You could try that line on other people, but we know each other too well. Stop trying to bullshit me. Rex's lips twisted into a smirk, like some long-lost heir in a cheesy soap opera about to reveal his true identity. This time, I'm not bullshitting. Come home with me for Memorial Day weekend, and I'll make the introduction myself. I show up, and you'll just bail on me. I promise I won't bail this time. You just have to come. I'll even pay for your flight. Memorial Day weekend, you hear me? You absolutely have to come this year. Seeing Rex's shoulders practically shaking with suppressed excitement, Leo just stared at him, completely bewildered. Something felt very, very off. On the way to Starfall, Leo remembered the upcoming trip to San Francisco. He turned to Rex in the passenger seat. Hey, a few days ago you said you'd scouted some promising influencers, but they're in SF, so you couldn't meet them in person. Why don't you come with me this week? It'll be more fun than going alone. Rex raised an eyebrow. During the week? Yeah. For how many days? We'll probably be back next week sometime. Room and board are all covered by the company, don't worry. Rex pursed his lips. Are you crazy? Am I crazy? If we skip that many classes, our participation grades will be in the negative. We could ace the final and still fail the course. Besides, getting that much time off from Dean Campbell won't be easy. It's one thing for you, but it's different for me. It's not a problem. Dean Campbell. Leo was about to brag that he'd been given a free pass to skip whatever he wanted without failing, but he stopped himself. If Rex found out about that, he'd flip out. Tricking him into skipping class would be impossible after that. He changed his tune. I'll handle Dean Campbell. You just come with me. Don't you want to see what the pretty girls in San Francisco look like? At the words pretty girls, Rex's body went rigid. His breathing deepened. He cleared his throat, sat up straight, and adopted a serious, professional tone. Leo, I really wasn't planning on going to San Francisco so soon to scout that batch of talent. I have a lot on my plate. But, out of a sense of responsibility to Starfall, I've decided to accompany you. As for Dean Campbell, I'll leave him to you. Just make sure I don't fail any more classes. Leo didn't say a word, just pressing his foot on the accelerator. TCH, this guy could spin gold from straw. When they arrived at Starfall, Bryce Peterson, the content operations manager, was there to greet them. Boss, the final candidates for this round of interviews are here and waiting, Bryce said. Mr. Shao already took a look and had no objections to their appearance. Do you want to interview them personally? No. Let the experts handle it. You could take Rex. Leo glanced at his roommate, about to tell him to be professional and not make a fool of himself. But when he turned, he saw Rex's face was set in a stern, unsmiling expression, his eyes sharp and focused. What the hell? Leo blurted out. Rex, are you possessed? It was the first time he had ever seen Rex like this, and it honestly startled him. Rex shot him a cool, unruffled glance. Don't be ridiculous, Mr. Jaeger, he said, his speech pattern suddenly crisp and elegant. This is how I always am. Before Leo could respond, Rex adjusted his collar and gave Bryce a polite smile. Mr. Peterson, if you would lead the way. Yeah, of course. Bryce was just as confused, but he quickly led Rex toward the interview room. Leo stood frozen, staring at Rex's retreating back for a long moment. Rex must have a bug in his code, he thought. There's no other explanation for this. Shaking his head, Leo turned to head to his office, just as Kevin Shion walked in, holding Clara Shun's hand. Kevin looked around, his face lighting up when he saw Leo. Leo, he called out. The low hum of conversation in the office abruptly ceased. Most of the employees, aside from the small team assigned to Kevin, didn't know he was a minority shareholder. They just assumed the guy who rarely showed up was from an external department. But hearing him call the CEO by his first name so casually made everyone realize he was just as important as Rex Gao. Clara, already shy, blushed deeply under the sudden barrage of stares, lowering her head and instinctively tightening her grip on Kevin's hand. Leo ushered the two of them into his office. Kevin scratched his head. Leo, I brought Clara, but maybe you should explain it to her. My brain's not working right. I tried to tell her on the way over, but I just kept messing up the words you said. Leo nodded. I'll take it from here. Okay, so. Kevin hesitated, Should I leave, then? Let you two talk? I'll just get in the way. Sure. You can close the door on your way out. Seeing that Leo wasn't putting up a fight, Kevin's face fell. Leo, you really want me to leave? Clara will be nervous alone with you. I think. Leo cut him off with an exasperated eye roll. Kevin, are you really this dense? I never told you to leave. You're the one who offered. Was I supposed to beg you to stay? You should stay and listen too. This is for you as much as it is for her. Oh, all right. Heh heh. Kevin grinned sheepishly, first at Leo, then at Clara. Clara didn't seem to mind his clumsiness at all. Instead of looking annoyed, she just pursed her lips and gently brushed a stray grain of rice off his cheek from lunch. The simple, sweet gesture made Leo's heart ache. I miss her so much. To distract himself, he cleared his throat and addressed Clara. Clara, you've been thinking that Kevin begged me to find a job for you here, and that he's just denying it to protect your pride, right? Clara nodded, hesitating for a moment before gathering her courage. I know you and Kevin are trying to help me, but I don't want your pity. I don't want you to try and spare my feelings. I can earn my own money. Leo shook his head, smiling gently. You've misunderstood us. We're not pitying you. Yes, I'll admit, Kevin did talk to me privately about you. But even if he hadn't, even if we were complete strangers, you would have passed the interview and gotten the job. Starfall's policy is to hire top students from top-tier universities, a condition you meet perfectly. Your academic record proves you're a fast learner. Hiring you is not some charity case where we just hand you a paycheck. Besides, Kevin is a shareholder in this company. His work isn't easy. As his girlfriend, don't you want to help him share that burden? You get to help him, solve your job situation, and secure an income. It's a win-win, isn't it? Clara stared at him, stunned. His reasoning was flawless, a world away from Kevin's fumbled attempts at persuasion. Just as Leo was about to say more, a knock came at the door. A male employee stood in the doorway. Boss, there's someone here to see you. Who is it? A young woman. She can't be much older than you. She says she's the executive assistant to the chairman of P15.She. Leo blinked, instinctively asking, the assistant to P15.She, the chairman of P15? Yeah, boss, that's what she said. She seems really put together, but she looks so young, I'm not sure. The employee trailed off. If you don't want to see her, I can tell her to leave. Wait, Leo called out, rising from his chair. He turned back to Clara. Clara, think carefully about what I just said, then decide if you want to join Starfall. If you don't, I'll just find a different position for Kevin or get him an assistant. It's no problem. Then he turned to the employee. Show her to the reception room. Offer her some tea. And, if Mr. Shao is in his office, let him know as well. Yes, boss. Right away. The employee hurried off. Leo quickly straightened his slightly disheveled clothes. You two hang out in my office for a bit, he told Kevin. Help yourselves to whatever you want to eat or drink. Watch TV, use the computer, whatever. I gotta take care of something. I'll be back soon. Kevin's face flushed. Leo, you say it like Clara, and I'm gonna start making out in here. He mumbled. Not saying you can't. There are no cameras in my office. Leo shot back with a wicked grin. After leaving Kevin and Clara, Leo walked briskly toward the reception room, his heart starting to pound. The assistant to the chairman of P15.She. That wasn't a title someone would dare to impersonate. The employee thought Felicia seemed too young for such a high-power position, but Leo knew better. After all, P15.She himself had only just graduated from college. It made perfect sense that his assistant could also be a young woman, likely a loyal employee who had been with him since he first started the company. And as for why she was here, the purpose was almost too obvious to guess. Still, Leo found it hard to believe. For the current Starfall, P15.She was a titan, a true corporate giant. His mind racing, Leo pushed open the door to the reception room. The first thing he saw was Felicia. She was seated elegantly on the edge of the sofa, bathed in the soft, warm light. She wore a tailored black pantsuit, the jacket cut to perfectly accentuate her slender waist, paired with a cream-colored silk blouse that revealed just a hint of her delicate collarbone. When she saw Leo enter, she rose swiftly, a warm, professional smile on her face. Her eyes were full of sincerity. She gave a slight bow and extended her right hand. Mr. Yeager, hello. I'm Felicia, executive assistant to P15.She, the chairman of P15. It's a pleasure to meet you. Her smile was like a spring sunrise, and every movement was imbued with grace. Leo shook her hand, smiling back. Hello, Ms. To what do we owe the pleasure of this surprise visit? Felicia didn't miss a beat. Mr. Yeager, I'm here today on behalf of our chairman to extend an offer of partnership to you and Starfall Media. Even though he had braced himself for it, hearing the word partnership still sent a jolt of shock through him. Chatterjee really wants to partner with Starfall. But why would a massive brand like that seek out a fledgling MCN like Starfall? Chatterjee had endless options. They didn't need to go looking for partners. Countless companies were lining up, begging for a chance to work with them. So, why? Could it be because of Isabelle? Before Leo could voice his suspicion, Felicia spoke again, as if reading his mind. Mr. Yeager, you must be wondering why Chatterjee would approach Starfall, correct? She paused, her smile unwavering. First, I want to assure you this has nothing to do with your girlfriend, Isabelle Thornton. Second, it is unrelated to Starfall's partnership with the Archer Group. The decision to approach Starfall for a partnership was made by our chairman, Mr. Xia, personally. Mr. Xia's personal decision. Leo was even more astonished. But why? From what I understand, Chatterjee has no shortage of partners in every field. And with all due respect, in the MCN space, Starfall is just getting started. My apologies, Mr. Yeager, but as for our chairman's specific reasons, that's beyond the purview of a humble assistant like myself. However, I can tell you that he often makes decisions like this, seemingly without reason. The strange thing is, every company or project he suddenly decides to partner with or invest in grows exponentially in a very short time. Without exception, perhaps it's just his preternatural strategic vision. Leo's mouth hung open. He was speechless. Chatterjee approaching Starfall was like a billionaire walking up to him on the street and saying, "Young man, I'm leaving you my fortune. No strings attached. Just because I'm in a good mood." Just as he was about to say something, anything, he caught a movement out of the corner of his eye. Through the glass wall of the reception room, he saw Isabelle standing outside, a wide, playful grin on her face. She mouthed silently, "A message just for him. I'll wait for new book announcement. Author's note about supporting the new book, a dual book serialization note." Seeing Isabelle's face at the office, Leo's eyes went wide. Just an hour ago, he'd been watching Kevin and Clara, feeling an intense pang of longing for her. And now, as if summoned by his thoughts, here she was. It seemed to be a constant in their relationship. Whenever he missed her most, she would appear. Maybe that was the unspoken rhythm of love. When you think of me, I'm thinking of you. And if we long for each other, we'll find each other. The observant Felicia Fong noticed the change in Leo's expression and followed his gaze to the door. She saw Isabelle standing there and smiled knowingly. "Mr. Yeager, your girlfriend is here. I know Ms. Thornton has been incredibly busy with matters concerning Thornton Industries and her father. She must have very little free time. Let's do this. You don't have to give me an answer right away. You can take some time to consider Chatterjee's partnership offer." With that, she slid her business card across the table. "Here's my card. When you've made a decision, please feel free to contact me." Realizing she had misinterpreted the situation, Leo quickly reined in his excitement and stopped Felicia as she was about to get up and leave. "Ms. Phone, wait." She paused, her gaze calm and steady. Leo cleared his throat. "Ahem, you've misunderstood, Ms. Phone. My girlfriend is very understanding. She wouldn't deliberately interrupt me when I'm working just to get my attention." He took a breath, his voice firming with conviction. "Regarding your offer, if it truly comes from Mr. Xia himself, then I unconditionally accept the partnership with Chatterjee." Felicia smiled, as if she had expected this all along. She sat back down and pulled a file from her bag. "Mr. Yeager, there's no need for unconditional agreements. Please take a look at the partnership proposal we've drafted. To be more precise, our chairman is more inclined to make a direct investment in Starfall Media. He wants to acquire a partial equity stake. Of course," she added, "there are no predatory clauses. After acquiring the shares, Chatterjee will not interfere with any of your operational decisions. However, an investment of this nature would require you and the other Starfall shareholders to dilute some of your existing shares." A knowing smile touched her lips. "This is something you will certainly need to discuss with your partners. While you may be willing, the other shareholders might not be as decisive." Leo didn't answer immediately, instead taking the proposal from her. At first, he'd suspected Chatterjee would demand a huge chunk of equity, then use that leverage to slowly infiltrate Starfall's operations and eventually stage a takeover. It was a standard corporate playbook, but the document in his hands was anything but standard. It was a clear, boilerplate agreement, so straightforward that even someone like him, without a law degree, could understand it perfectly. It even included addendums that specifically addressed his unspoken concerns, highlighting them for transparency. It was practically an open-book contract, with annotations for every clause. He read it again, finding it almost impossible to believe that one of the country's top brands would present such a generous offer. Finally, He looked up. Ms. Phone, are you certain that if we agree, the final contract will adhere to the terms outlined here? Yes, Mr. Yeager. And if you have any issues with the terms in this proposal, you can mark them for review. If my colleagues approve, we can amend them. Leo let out a relieved breath. If that's the case, he said with a confident smile, then I don't think the other shareholders at Starfall will have any objections. They'll be just as willing as I am to dilute their shares to accept Chattertee's investment. Excellent, Mr. Yeager. Please contact me once you've finalized things on your end. I hope that the next time we meet, it will be to sign the contract. Felicia rose from the sofa again, ready to leave. Just as she grasped the doorknob, she paused as if remembering something and turned back to him with a small smile. By the way, Mr. Yeager, what you said earlier about your girlfriend being so understanding, our chairman has said the exact same thing, word for word. Behind every successful man stands a woman who supports him. Regardless of whether this partnership goes through, I wish you and Ms. Thornton a long and happy future together. Thank you. After seeing Felicia out, Leo immediately went to find Isabelle, but she was no longer outside the reception room. He did a quick sweep of the office, but couldn't find her. Just then, Mark Zhang, returning from the restroom, saw him looking around. Hey boss, you looking for something? Yeah, I'm looking for Isabelle. Mark, your desk is closest to the reception room. Did you see where she went? Mark looked momentarily confused, then pointed toward Leo's office. She went in there, boss. You know how she is. It's not like she's going to hang out with us regular employees. Oh, right. Thanks. Leo nodded, though he was still puzzled. He knew Isabelle's personality, which was exactly why he hadn't thought to check his own office. Kevin and Clara were in there. Upon seeing them, Isabelle's usual reaction would be to avoid the room entirely. Outside of him, she rarely spoke to anyone. Putting her in a room with Kevin, a knucklehead who couldn't make conversation with anyone but Clara, and the introverted Clara, who only spoke to Kevin. It was a recipe for the most awkward silence imaginable. The three of them together would form this silent trio. He couldn't fathom how deafeningly quiet that room must be. Steeling himself, Leo pushed open his office door. The next second, he froze. Kevin and Clara were sitting side by side at his computer, hands on the keyboard, playing some game. And, standing behind them, with a cool, imperious expression, was Isabelle directing them. Kevin, move faster. If you don't hit that switch, Clara can't get through the door. Kevin, you're terrible at this. Clara, stop waiting for Kevin. This is a game, not a date. Clara, you're so whipped. Leo's brain short-circuited. Was this some kind of bizarro world role reversal? How was this whipped, terrible at games girl daring to say that to anyone else? Leo stared at the scene unfolding at his computer, the so-called silent trio now fully absorbed in their game. His brain was struggling to process it all. Is this right? Isabelle is ordering Kevin and Clara around in a video game? He took a few steps closer and peered at the screen. Of course. Fireboy and Watergirl. TCH. Leo finally made a sound, unable to contain himself. Isabelle, who had been completely focused on coaching the couple, flinched at the noise and whipped her head around. She was met with Leo's half-amused, half-incredulous smirk. A flicker of panic crossed her eyes before she instantly masked it with her signature cool expression. Leo, you walk without making a sound. The people sitting outside my office can hear me just fine. Maybe it's just that you, the whipped one who's bad at games, were too busy being a backseat gamer to notice. Isabelle refused to admit it. I was not, she denied coolly. They wanted to play. I was just watching. I don't like to play. Right. He was all too familiar with this particular brand of denial. She was the type to secretly buy a box of Blue Devil's condoms and then swear up and down she had no idea what they were. Hearing their voices, Kevin and Clara stopped playing and turned around. Clara's face immediately turned crimson, and she looked down like a child caught doing something wrong. Kevin, on the other hand, just grinned. Leo, I never realized Fireboy and Watergirl was this much fun. We used to go to gaming lounges all the time. How do we miss this? It's a total hidden gem, better than most of those AAA games. Leo snorted, rolling his eyes. It's not that the game is fun, it's that you're playing it with Clara. Nonsense. I'm not that shallow. You know it's true. Leo shot back. Caught, Kevin's face flushed. Leo, sometimes it feels like you can read my mind, he muttered. How do you always know what I'm thinking? Leo shrugged, his eyes darting away. I'm just smart. Of course it's not because I'm smart. It's because I'm just as shallow as you are. He remembered all the hours he and Isabelle had spent huddled together playing Fireboy and Watergirl, or Bleach versus Naruto. The gaming had, more often than not, led to some serious lip service. Feeling a little guilty, Leo quickly changed the subject. Clara, have you thought about what I said earlier? Clara looked up, her cheeks still pink, and nodded. You were right, Leo. I'm going to take your advice and join Starfall. With a job, I can cover my living expenses, and I can help Kevin. He needs me. Okay. Leo snapped his fingers, then told Kevin to take Clara to HR and get her onboarding paperwork started. Once they were gone, he took Isabelle's hand and led her out of the company. Before he could say anything, she tugged on his arm, her eyes shining as she pointed to the food truck park next to their office building. Leo, I haven't had greasy barbecue in forever. Take me. All right, let's go. Once they were seated at a small table, Leo finally had a chance to ask, why did you leave the hospital? Aren't you supposed to be keeping up the act for the executives? Isabelle tilted her chin up, her voice cool and clear. I had Lester announce that I have a minor concussion. It would be weirder if I stayed unconscious for too long. So this afternoon, he told them I had woken up. I'm still using my recovery as an excuse to refuse all visitors. Since they don't actually care about my health, they won't bother coming to the hospital anymore. She paused, then wrapped her arms around his with a playful smile, her voice turning soft. Which means I had a chance to come find you. I see. Leo nodded. The woman I was meeting with in the reception room was the assistant to P15.She, the chairman of Chatter T. I know. Chatter T wants to partner with Starfall. Their chairman wants to buy an equity stake. Leo told her everything, watching her closely. He still harbored a sliver of suspicion that she was the one who had secretly orchestrated this. The reason Felicia had given was just too flimsy. He knew that if Isabelle was behind it, he'd be able to see it in her micro-expressions. To his surprise, however, when she heard about the investment offer, her expression was one of genuine shock. P15.She wants to invest in Starfall Media. Yeah, are you surprised? Of course I'm surprised. Isabelle nodded emphatically. Chatter T's influence in the country is massive right now. They've captured the low-end market with their instant milk tea packets, and at the same time, they've cornered the high-end market with their brick-and-mortar stores, which have a design and atmosphere that surpasses most influencer cafes and even places like Starbucks. They've essentially created a monopoly in the tea and coffee space. They rarely expand beyond their initial investment partners anymore. For them to invest in an industry they've never touched before is completely unexpected. Hearing her detailed and insightful analysis, Leo was stunned. If she had been the one pulling the strings, she never would have said any of that. Her assessment was too objective, too real. It was clear she had nothing to do with it. I thought you were the reason they came to me, Leo admitted. Now I'm sure you weren't involved. But I can't think of any other reason why a giant like Chatter T would be interested in Starfall. Isabelle didn't speak. She just let her cool facade melt away, leaned forward slightly, and cupped his face in her hands. Under the warm, yellow glow of the streetlights, her gaze was impossibly tender. Because of you, she whispered. Starfall has my boyfriend, the most brilliant CEO. Why wouldn't they want to invest in Starfall? Isabelle was to the rest of the world a cool, aloof ice queen. So whenever she revealed that rare, tender side of herself, Leo found himself completely captivated, completely lost. In those moments, no matter how agitated or restless he felt, her gentleness could soothe his soul. He stared in her beautiful, deep eyes, feeling utterly mesmerized. It took him a long moment to find his voice. In other relationships, it's usually the guy saying all the sweet things to his girlfriend, he said with a soft smile. How come with us? You're always the one saying them to me. Her eyes, still shimmering with light, held his. I never think of them as sweet nothings I'm saying to please you or comfort you, she replied, her voice even softer than before. It's just how I truly feel. She paused, a hint of melancholy creeping into her gaze. And why do you care how other couples act? You're the one and only Leo Yeager, and I'm the one and only Isabelle Thornton. Can't we have a love story that's just ours, one that's different from everyone else's? Leo sat there, under the dim lights of the food truck park, and just looked at the girl pouring her heart out to him. She's right. Why did he care how other people loved? She had always been the one and only Isabelle Thornton, the Isabelle Thornton whose heart was just big enough for him, and no one else. Just then, the owner of the food stall brought over a platter of sizzling skewers and set it on their table. A light breeze whispered past, stirring something deep in Leo's heart. He wanted to respond with something equally beautiful, something poetic, but the words wouldn't come. After a long moment of wrestling with his thoughts, all he could manage was a firm, heartfelt nod. Seeing it, Isabelle's lips curved into a smile, and she covered her mouth to stifle a laugh. Hurry up and eat. It's getting cold out here. As they started eating, Leo asked, do you have to go back to the hospital later? I need to stop by the dorm first. Since I'm not going back to New York right away, I'm worried Haley and the others will rush over there to see me and find an empty room. I want to see them and let them know I'm okay, so they don't have to make the trip. Oh, okay. I can drive you back. Isabelle shook her head. It's fine. I'll have Lester take me. He's waiting nearby. You have to get back to the office and deal with work. I don't want to keep you. Leo was about to protest, but he knew she was right. He had to call an emergency meeting with Sean, Ruby, and the other shareholders. They needed to make a decision about the Chatterjee offer tonight. An opportunity like this was too rare to let slip away. Who knew if Chatterjee was also in talks with other MCNs? They had to act fast. Most importantly, if they could secure this investment, Starfall's growth would skyrocket. The benefits weren't just financial. Having Chatterjee as a partner would open doors to resources and collaborations that were previously unthinkable. It would put them on the map. And maybe then, in a few months, when he and Isabelle appeared in public together again, no one would dare to whisper about the gap between their statuses. With that in mind, Leo didn't insist on driving her. Instead, he brought up something that had been on his mind. All right, I'll let Lester take you. But you should really consider letting him retire once this whole mess with your family's company is sorted out and your dad is cleared. He's getting older, and it's not good for him to work so hard every day. We both see him as family, not just a driver. We should be thinking about his health. I know. I've actually mentioned it to him a few times, but he says he's worked for my family for decades and wouldn't know what to do with himself if he retired. He said he still wants. She trailed off, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. Leo looked at her, curious. He still wants what? He said he still wants to see us get married, she mumbled, and help take care of our kids. Leo froze, a slow heat creeping up his neck. His mind, against his will, immediately began to picture it. Isabelle, pregnant. What would their baby look like? Would it look more like her, or more like him? The thought startled him. A few months ago, he was insisting they were just purely platonic good neighbors. Now he was fantasizing about what their children would look like. Damn this bad neighbor's heart. After Lester picked Isabelle up, Leo headed back to the office building. In the elevator, he called Sean Xiao and Ruby one by one. He'd had someone notify Sean earlier when Felicia arrived, but Sean happened to be out. Now, he had to get all of them back to the office. They all agreed to be there within the hour. When Leo got back to the floor, he saw Kevin emerging from the HR department with Clara, her onboarding complete. Since Kevin was also a shareholder, Leo stopped him. Kevin, are you and Clara in a hurry? We're about to have a shareholder meeting. Sean and the others are on their way. You should stay. Kevin hesitated. Well, Clara and I haven't eaten yet. I'm fine, but she... Hearing that there was an important meeting, Clara tugged on Kevin's hand, her small face serious. I could go back to campus and eat by myself. You should stay for the meeting. I'll be fine on my own. But Clara pouted, insistent. I'll be fine. Okay, then let me at least walk you downstairs to get a ride. I won't feel right otherwise. Kevin, respecting her wishes, gave Leo a quick look before escorting Clara out. He was back a few minutes later. Over the next half hour, Sean Xiao, Ruby Yu, Quinn Fan, and Don Ren arrived one after another and filed into the conference room at Leo's direction. Once everyone was seated, Leo cleared his throat. All right, since we're all here, I'll get straight to it. This evening, I was approached by Felicia Fong, the executive assistant to the chairman of Chatterjee. She came with a very sincere offer. Chatterjee wants to invest in Starfall Media. Chatterjee? The name dropped like a bomb in the conference room. Sean and the others stared at Leo, their faces a mixture of shock and disbelief. The exact same expression Leo had worn when he first heard news. Everyone in that room knew just how massive Chatterjee had become. Its founder was a recent college graduate, yet in just 2 short years, the brand had completely dominated the national market. Its growth was meteoric, leaving all competitors in the dust. So, the idea that Chatterjee wanted to invest in them was almost impossible to process. Leo, are you sure this isn't some kind of joke? Ruby, you asked, her brow furrowed with concern. I mean, Starfall isn't just a small studio anymore, but compared to Chatterjee, we're still a nobody. Why would a behemoth like that want to invest in us? Are you sure you weren't scammed? The others nodded, their expressions echoing Ruby's worry. Leo shook his head. He pulled out the proposal Felicia had left and opened his laptop, bringing up her official corporate bio for them to see. Here, this is the woman who came to see me this afternoon. It's not like they could find a perfect doppelganger just to trick me. Besides, everyone knows how notoriously aggressive Chatterjee's legal team is. Impersonating their chairman's assistant would be a one-way ticket to a federal lawsuit. Seeing the proof, the group relaxed slightly. But Sean's frown deepened. Leo, even if it was really her, why would a company as big as Chatterjee suddenly approach us? It makes no sense. Leo gave a wry smile. Honestly, my first reaction was the same as yours. I asked her, and she said it was a personal decision by their chairman, P15.She, and she didn't know the specific reason. But she did say that he often makes these spur-of-the-moment investments, and every single company or project he chooses ends up becoming a leader in its field. If I had to guess, Leo continued, I'd say Mr. Xia sees Starfall's potential. There's no other MCN in the country that has grown from small studio to our current scale in such a short amount of time. When you think about it, it's not completely illogical. A business titan like him is bound to have better foresight than we do. Is that really it? Sharon muttered, clearly unconvinced. Leo gestured to the proposal in front of him. Take a look at this. After I read it, I couldn't come up with any other explanation. Because after they invest, they don't even plan to interfere with our operations or personnel decisions. It's like they just want to give us money, help us secure more resources, and then sit back and wait for the returns. Hearing this, Sharon and the others picked up the proposal. A few moments later, their expressions mirrored the same shock Leo had felt. This can't be real, Sharon said, his voice laced with disbelief. So, we give up less than 3% of our individual shares, and in return, we get a massive cash injection and access to all of Chatterjee's resources, with no strings attached? That's not an investment. That's someone forcibly strapping a rocket to our back. That's right, Leo confirmed with a smile. Ms. Fong promised me that if we accept, the final contract will follow these terms exactly. No tricks. He looked around the table. So, I don't think there's anything to hesitate about. We should accept their offer. Sean, Ruby, what do you think? As Leo's best friend, Kevin didn't hesitate. I'm in, Leo. No matter how you slice it. This is a huge win for Starfall. Ruby and Quinn exchanged a look, then nodded in unison. Leo, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, Ruby said. If we turn this down, we'll probably never get another chance to partner with a giant like them. I agree. No issues for me either, Quinn added. Actually, I was thinking of using this opportunity to cash out my shares. My family want me to go abroad for my master's, so I won't be able to stay involved with Starfall anyway. I was going to tell you all in a few days, but since we're all here, he looked at the group apologetically. Aside from Kevin, they all knew Quinn's family was well off and had business overseas, so his decision wasn't a total surprise. With Ruby, Quinn, and Kevin all on board, Leo smiled at Sean and Donren. Sean, Don, I assume you two have no objections either? Then I'll contact Miss Fong tomorrow, and we can get the contract signed. No, Sean cut in, his tone sharp and unwavering. I do not agree to this. Donren remained silent for a moment before speaking, his voice low. Sorry, Leo. I'm with Sean. Leo's smile vanished, his brow instantly knitting into a deep frown. What? Before Sean and Don had voiced their dissent, it had never once occurred to Leo that anyone, after reading that proposal, would object. Any other company's board would have jumped at the offer without a second thought. To hesitate for even a second would be an insult to Chatterjee. And yet, here they were. Sean was against it, and Don, loyal to a fault, was standing with him. The sudden opposition stunned Ruby and Quinn as well. Ruby's brow furrowed in confusion. Sean, why would you object to this? We both know how big Chatterjee is. We watched it grow from nothing when we were freshmen. You know what their influence means. Yeah, Sean, Quinn chimed in. The other times you and Leo disagreed. We could understand your perspective. You were worried about growing too fast, about the financial risk. But this, facing the bewildered looks from everyone, Sean sighed, a look of frustration on his face. You've misunderstood me. Of course I want Starfall to succeed, and I know exactly how powerful Chatterjee is. But, he paused, collecting his thoughts. It's because I know how powerful they are that I'm against this. Think about it. There are plenty of MCNs our size, companies that have been around longer than us. If Chatterjee wants to get into this space, why would they choose us over them? If you were P15.She, would you invest in a dark horse rookie or a seasoned veteran who has stood the test of time? So, he concluded, his voice firm, their offer can't possibly be as simple as what's written in that proposal. They have another motive. Otherwise, why would they help us for no reason? What I'm afraid of is that once they're in, they'll slowly consume everything Starfall is, piece by piece. When that happens, will Starfall even be Starfall anymore? Leo listened to Sean's reasoning, his own frown deepening. The argument felt short-sighted, small. Sean, your caution is understandable, Leo said, keeping his voice even. But have you considered that they chose Starfall after market research and a value assessment? Sure, those other companies have been around longer, but they've spent all that time and are still at our level. We reached it in less than half the time. That proves Starfall is a better investment. Their choosing us isn't random. Secondly, you talk about other motives, but the proposal is crystal clear. They invest, but they don't get a say in our operations. That clause is legally binding, with steep penalties for breach of contract. We don't need to worry about that. Sean's expression didn't soften. I'm done talking about it. Don, and I will not agree to this. Starfall was my idea. It's my life's work. I won't let it be put at risk over and over again. I admit, the last 2 times we disagreed, you were proven right. But this is different. Before, the worst-case scenario was a major setback. This time, the risk is losing the entire company, of it being renamed and taken over. I will absolutely not allow my creation to fall into someone else's hands. Seeing how stubborn Sean was being, Leo abandoned any hope of reasoning with him. His own expression hardened. Sean, it doesn't matter if you and Don object. Quinn, Ruby, Kevin, and I are all in favor. Not to mention, I hold veto power. The shift in Leo's tone made Sean's posture straighten. That's true, he shot back, his voice rising, but this is a decision about bringing in a third-party shareholder. The shares held by the 4 of you do not constitute a 2/3 majority. Without a 2/3 majority, a resolution to alter share distribution cannot pass. So yes, you can veto my objection, but as long as Don and I refuse to consent, your approval is meaningless, isn't it? Sean, do you have to be like this? Leo's voice was tight with frustration. Can't you just think rationally for a second? Don't you see what an incredible opportunity this is for us for Starfall? Sean shook his head. All I see is a predator with immense ambition trying to get into our house. I will not allow my life's work to be in constant peril. That's complete nonsense. Leo finally snapped, his patience gone. Seeing the argument erupt, Ruby quickly stood up to play peacemaker. Leo, Sean, what are you two doing? Why are you fighting? Look, Leo, let's just call it a day. You both need to cool off. We can talk about this again later. Before Leo could respond, Sean cut her off. There's no need. No matter what, I will not agree to this investment. We don't need to waste any more time on it. With that, Sean stood and walked out of the conference room. After a moment's hesitation, Don followed him. Quinn and Ruby were left speechless, looking back and forth between the empty doorway and Leo, unsure of what to say. Leo, don't get so worked up, Kevin said, standing to clap a hand on Leo's shoulder. We'll figure something out. Whatever happens, I'm with you, man. Unconditionally. Leo gave a slight nod, his gaze fixed on the door, his expression turning thoughtful, almost calculating. Just as I thought, he mused. Even if Starfall was his idea, Sean isn't suited for a leadership position. After a moment of silence, Leo took a breath and forced a smile for Ruby and Quinn. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. But I just need to confirm one thing. You two will continue to support the decision to accept Chattertee's investment, right? Ruby and Quinn, slightly taken aback, nodded instinctively. I know you will, Leo said, his voice quiet but firm. In that case, I hope you two won't interfere with what I have to do next. After the meeting, Leo drove Kevin back to campus. Sitting in the passenger seat, Kevin could feel the heavy mood hanging over Leo. He was clearly still bothered by the earlier disagreement with Sean Shao. Leo, don't overthink it, Kevin said, trying to break the silence. It's business. People have different opinions. That's normal. You just have to talk it out. Leo shook his head, his eyes fixed on the road. No, that's not what I'm thinking about. Whether Sean agrees or not, the final outcome won't change. I'm going to make sure Chattertee's investment in Starfall happens. Starfall is his baby, I get that. But it's my baby too. Every decision he makes is too cautious, too timid. That personality, that way of doing things, it's holding Starfall back. He can't take it to the next level. Leo's voice hardened. If he can't do it, then I will. It doesn't matter if he's the founder. If he can't lead, you get out of the way. Starfall isn't just his company anymore. We have dozens of employees who need to eat. How can I let him miss an opportunity like this, a chance to play in the big leagues? Kevin's expression was complicated. Leo, are you saying you're going to force Sean to give in? Forcing him is useless. His position is crystal clear. He'll never agree. But if he doesn't agree, we'll never get the 2/3 majority we need to approve the deal. Don Wren, Leo said, his tone flat, isn't nearly as stubborn. He then steered the conversation away from the topic. Don't worry about it. I saw this day coming a long time ago. I already have a plan. Kevin sighed. Man, it's just. Isabelle's family is on another level. I think it's indirectly making you want more, pushing you harder. Otherwise, letting Starfall grow slowly would have been fine, right? What you have now is already more than most people could dream of in a lifetime. Leo just grunted in acknowledgement, not denying it. About half an hour later, he dropped Kevin off at his dorm. As Kevin walked away, Leo was about to drive back to CPI, but stopped, a nagging feeling in the back of his mind. Shit, I feel like I forgot something. What was it? Come on, brain, think. Leo pulled the car over and sat there for a long moment, but nothing came to him. Just as he buckled his seatbelt again, ready to head back to campus, his phone buzzed violently. He picked it up. Rex Gao's roar blasted through the speaker. Leo, where the hell are you? The hell? Hearing Rex's voice, it all came flooding back. He'd left Rex at the office. I cough, sorry man. Totally forgot about you. I'm on my way back to get you. Jaeger, you son of a... By the time Leo got Rex back to their dorm, it was past 10 o'clock. He didn't even have time to shower before calling Isabelle. Are you still on campus? He asked. She hummed. On my way back to the hospital now. Lester's driving. Okay. Sensing the disappointment in his voice, Isabelle put on a mock serious tone. Leo Jaeger, are you trying to lure me to the Grove again? What? No. I just want to take a walk with you on the athletic fields. I don't believe you. Then you'll just have to come with me next time and see for yourself how much of a gentleman I can be. Chatting with her for just a few minutes lifted the heavy mood that had been weighing him down all day. They talked until she arrived at the hospital, reluctantly hanging up. That's when he noticed that Rex, ever since returning from Starfall Studios, had been sporting a grin so wide it practically touched his ears. Felix's phone, fresh from a shower, saw his triumphant expression and couldn't help but ask, Rex, you spent a whole day at Leo's company. How come you don't look tired at all? In fact, you look like you're ready to pull an all-nighter. You know, you're not wrong. That's exactly how I feel, Rex declared. Felix looked at Leo, surprised. Leo, are the benefits at your company that good? Good enough to make a pampered prince like Rex want to work overtime. Leo smirked. If you had a parade of gorgeous, curvy influencers calling you Mr. Gao all day, you'd probably be even more excited than he is. Leo, you wound me. I'm not so shallow a man, Rex said with theatrical indignation. Leo just shot him a look of disbelief. Bye. Anyway, I'm heading to San Francisco the day after tomorrow. There are a few more influencers there you'll need to interview in person. But from the sounds of it, you're not interested. Guess I'll have to go alone. Rex's face changed in an instant. He cleared his throat, but trying to save face, he said stiffly, If I said I'm not going, I'm not going. But, Leo, can you step outside for a second? I need to talk to you about something. Leo raised an eyebrow, but followed Rex out of the room. The second they were in the hall, the stubborn facade on Rex's face vanished. Godfather, there were too many people in there. Please, take me to San Francisco. I was just fronting. You're ridiculous. By mid-March, the weather in Crestview had started to warm up. Leo and Rex, along with a few managers and project leads from Starfall, were in line at Crestview International Airport, waiting to board their flight. The trip to San Francisco was packed with a heavy agenda. Meanwhile, Isabelle was scheduled to fly back to New York City that evening. She was supposed to have stayed in Crestview for a few more days, milking the concussion for all it was worth. But she told Leo that Conrad Chun had finally prepared the complete file to submit to the feds, which had secured her a meeting with her father. So, she had to return to New York early. It was a plausible excuse that the Thornton Industries executives wouldn't question. It had been a week since Richard Thornton was taken in for questioning. It was only natural that his daughter, even if injured, would rush back to see him at the first opportunity. Before takeoff, Rex suddenly turned to Leo. Hey Leo, remember how you asked me to introduce you to the president of the Appalachian Mining Consortium from back home? Yeah, what about it? Why bring that up now? He's in San Francisco for the next couple of days. If you want, I can set up an introduction on this trip. Leo instinctively raised an eyebrow, then waved his hand dismissively. All right, Rex, I'm not in the mood for your bullshit right now. What the? I'm not bullshitting you. If you don't believe me, just wait. You'll see when we get to San Francisco. On the plane, Leo closed his eyes, trying to rest. He'd spent the entire previous day buried in work at the office, followed by a 3-hour phone call with Julian Croft in New York. They'd gone over a deep data analysis of all of Starfall's accounts and restructured the company, creating more specialized data analytics and marketing departments. As Starfall Media signed more and more talent, Leo knew they couldn't just rely on good content anymore. They needed to leverage back-end data for precise, targeted marketing and promotion, piggybacking on trends and managing online sentiment. That required a seamless fusion of both departments. Of course, Leo's sudden focus on these departments had an ulterior motive. When he'd first hired Julian, it wasn't just for his technical skills. Julian Croft was the ace Leo had been holding up his sleeve. Mr. Jaeger, the business manager said, leaning over, we'll be landing in about 20 minutes. The people we're meeting are already waiting for us at the jet bridge exit. Should we head to the hotel to rest first? Or? Leo glanced at the time. They'd land a little after 4 in the afternoon. There was no need to rush into work. Let's just go to the hotel for the night, he told the manager. Everyone should get some rest. We can grab dinner, get a massage, whatever. Starting tomorrow, we need to be completely focused. The next few days are critical, and there's no room for error. Understood, Mr. Yeager. As he spoke, Leo realized he probably needed to hire a professional assistant. Juggling his responsibilities at CPI with his ever-increasing workload at Starfall was becoming a nightmare. An assistant to help him manage his schedule would free up a lot of his time. He made a mental note to put it on his agenda as soon as he got back to Crestview. Just then, he glanced over at Rex, who had been hunched over his phone since they'd boarded. His thumbs were a constant blur, tapping out messages with an expression of intense concentration, more serious than a pledge of allegiance. Curiosity got the better of him. Rex, who are you texting? Your hands haven't stopped moving since we took off. Hearing Leo's voice, Rex flinched and instinctively blanked his phone screen. He looked up, his face a mask of guilt. I'm talking to the president of the mining consortium like I told you, setting up that introduction. You're really sticking with that story? Come on, man, there's no need to posture. To his surprise, Rex looked completely serious. I'm not bullshitting you this time. You know the difference between when I'm joking and when I'm for real, don't you? Leo stared into his eyes for a long moment and was shocked to see that he seemed to be telling the truth. There was no trace of his usual, joking demeanor. Still, Leo was skeptical. That doesn't make sense. Even if you could actually contact the guy, you just send a message, maybe set up dinner for some time this week. You wouldn't need to be texting nonstop. Leo's eyes narrowed playfully, and I distinctly saw you grinning like you just hit the Powerball. Don't tell me the president of the Appalachian Mining Consortium is a woman and you're hitting on her. Bullshit, Rex yelped, his voice much louder than he'd intended. Several passengers turned to look at him with odd expressions. Rex's face flushed red, and he ducked his head in embarrassment. Leo had just been teasing him, but his friend's massive overreaction piqued his interest. Whoa, I was just kidding. Why so defensive? Spill it. Who have you been talking to this whole flight? Someone's got you completely baited. Seeing that the jig was up, Rex stammered for a moment before whispering. I'll tell you, but you can't tell Felix or Ned. Okay? I don't want anyone else to know yet. You're dating someone? Not yet. We're in the talking stage, I guess. Rex mumbled the words, his face turning a shade of red that could rival a stop sign. Leo was floored. This was the guy who, as Starfall's sole talent manager, met with stunningly beautiful influencers on a daily basis without batting an eye. And now, just mentioning a girl he wasn't even dating turned him into a blushing mess. Leo couldn't help but wonder what this girl looked like to have the king of cool so completely flustered. More importantly, the only new people Rex had been meeting were influencers. Hadn't he just said a few weeks ago that he would never date one of them? Don't tell me you're getting cozy with one of the influencers we're trying to sign, Leo probed. Dude, I'm not judging, but girls like that. You can look, but maybe don't leap. What? No way. If I dated an influencer, my dad would kill me. Rex shot back with an eye roll. A few days ago, I was on TikTok scouting for new talent, and I stumbled on a video from a girl at our school. She happened to film her roommate in the background, and man, this roommate was exactly my type. I couldn't help myself. I slid into the poster's DMs and asked if she could give me her roommate's number. So you got it. Rex shook his head. Nope. She called me a creep and blocked me. Then who were you just talking to? Leo asked, confused. Rex cleared his throat. Okay, so I didn't get her number then. But that night, I was eating at the dining hall and found a student ID card on the floor. I took a picture and posted it on the campus subreddit, telling the owner to come find me. I figured if no one claimed it, I'd just turn it in. And you know what? Before I even finished my food, someone messaged me saying it was hers. I told her where I was, and 10 minutes later, she showed up. It was her, the girl who was exactly my type. So you got her number then? You know it, Rex said, the grin returning to his face. He rubbed his hands together excitedly. She seems really introverted, kind of like Clara Shun from our class. I've never really met a girl like that, so I didn't know how to talk to her. But to thank me, she offered to buy me dinner, and one thing led to another, and we just started talking. Damn, that's quite a story. But it's only been a few days, and you're already in the talking stage? I guess we just have a lot in common. We really hit it off. If things go well, I think we might make it official after I get back from this trip. Leo raised an eyebrow. Something felt a little too fast. If this girl really was as introverted as Clara, she would probably be slow to warm up to someone. Why would she be ready to jump into a relationship so quickly? He decided to offer a gentle warning. I'd slow down if I were you. This is moving really fast. You didn't do your usual thing and tell her you're a rich kid, did you? Because if you did, Leo didn't have to finish. Rex, for all his bluster, was an idiot. He immediately understood and shook his head. No, of course not. I've been acting like a totally normal college student. I haven't flashed any cash. I'm not stupid. If I want a real relationship, I'm not going to lead with that. All right, man. Just be careful. Don't worry. Once we make it official, I'll introduce her to you, Felix and Ned. As they talked, the plane touched down. After they deplaned, a car was waiting to take them to the five-star hotel their client had arranged. Before they checked in, the brand's representative, a man named Mr. Marsh, pulled Leo aside. Mr. Yeager, he said in a low voice, you've all had a long trip, so let's not talk business tonight. Mr. Rin mentioned you were planning to relax this evening. I've already made some arrangements, a private lounge, a spa, whatever you and your team are in the mood for. Leo's eyes widened. Is he saying what I think he's saying? He cleared his throat and quickly declined. Ahem, Mr. Marsh, you're too kind, but I think I'll pass on anywhere to corporate. I'm still just a kid after all. Mr. Marsh wasn't deterred. I heard the CEO of Starfall Media was still in college, but what does that matter? You're the boss. The student thing is just a title. Besides, who says college students can't enjoy a private lounge or a spa? Most of the people working there are college students themselves. Leo couldn't help but think. He's got a point. The big shots probably wouldn't even go if there weren't college kids there. But he held his ground. If he set one foot in a place like that, he was pretty sure one of Isabelle's family's assassins would follow him in with the other. No, really, he said firmly, but if you're set on it, feel free to take my employees. I'm sure they'd be more interested than I am. He paused, then pulled Rex, who was absorbed in his phone, over to his side. Please, make sure you take our Mr. Gao here, he said to Marsh with a straight face. He loves places like this, but don't underestimate him. He only goes with a highly critical eye, for research purposes. Rex, who had only heard Leo's apparent praise, puffed out his chest. That's right, Mr. Marsh. Since our CEO is unable to attend, I will go in his stead. All right then. Well, Mr. Yeager, we'll see you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Leo watched as Marsh gathered the other male employees from Starfall, whispering something to them. Their faces lit up, and they all eagerly agreed to experience the nightlife of San Francisco. Only Rex, clueless as to their actual destination, tagged along with a dopey grin. Leo went up to his suite alone, ordered some takeout, and ate in his room. He was about to call Isabelle, but checked the time and realized she was probably on her flight. He decided not to bother her, hoping she could get some sleep. But just as he put his phone down, it buzzed. It was a message from Isabelle. Isabelle, what are you doing? Leo, just finished dinner. Lying in bed at the hotel. Have to work first thing tomorrow, so I'm turning in early. You? On the plane? Isabelle just got on. Leo, you should try to get some sleep. Once you get back to New York, you'll probably be buried in all the work you missed in Crestview. He was trying to be thoughtful, knowing she'd be swamped. But her reply was completely out of left field. Isabelle, why didn't you go with your employees to the spa? I hear they're filled with girls in black thigh highs. You can even touch their legs. Leo's breath hitched. His eyes went wide. There's a mole. How else could she possibly know that, Mr. Marsh had taken his team out? It took him a solid 10 seconds to compose a reply. Leo, not interested in thigh highs. My feet don't hurt. Didn't want to go. Isabelle, really? Leo, really? Isabelle, well, you behaved. If you had dared to go let some other girl touch your feet and grope their legs. The message was followed by 2 scissor emojis. A chill ran down Leo's spine. Before he could respond, a cascade of new messages flooded his screen. One after another, a dozen photos appeared. Leo's eyes widened, and his whole body tensed. They were all pictures of Isabelle's legs, clad in black thigh-high stockings. Isabelle, your reward. Isabelle, next time we see each other, you can see the real thing. The dozen photos Isabelle sent were enough to make Leo's blood boil. He was practically drooling. After quickly saving every single one, he cleared his throat and, with a voice full of strained seriousness, sent her a voice message. Isabelle Thornton, what are you trying to do? Why are you sending me pictures like this? You know I, Leo Yeager, have never been one to look at such things. A single question mark appeared in reply. Not wanting to bother her on the plane, Leo sent another voice message. Ahem. Okay, you should get some sleep. I'm going to take a shower. Isabelle, little Leo, you'd better just be taking a shower. Now, it was Leo's turn to send a string of question marks. Who had turned his sweet girl into such a little devil? Ending the chat, Leo grabbed a change of clothes from his suitcase and headed into the bathroom. True to his word, he was, in fact, just taking a shower. 10 minutes later, he walked out with a towel wrapped around his waist and was about to grab the hairdryer when there was a knock at his door. Knock, huh? Leo was surprised. The Starfall employees who had come with him were all out with Mr. Marsh. He hadn't ordered any room service. Who could it be? After a moment's hesitation, he walked to the door. He opened it to see a woman, dolled up and dazzling, standing in the hallway. She looked to be in her early 20s, not much older than him. Even though it was only March, she was wearing a leg-bearing pencil skirt and a nearly transparent white blouse that did little to hide a figure that would stop any man in his tracks. To top it all off, she was as gorgeous as any of the big-name influencers on TikTok. Leo stared, baffled, at the heavily made-up woman. Before he could speak, she took a step forward with a practiced smile, closing the distance between them. If he hadn't instinctively stepped back, she would have been pressed right against him. She shot him a pouty look. "Mr. Yeager, why are you so scared?" Leo asked cautiously. "You know me?" "Not personally, no. I just know your last name. I thought Mr. Yeager would be some pot-bellied old man. I never expected you to be so fresh." Listening to her syrupy voice sent another wave of alarm through him, and he took another few steps back. In response, she stepped forward again, entering his room and reaching to close the door behind her. "Don't move," Leo snapped. The woman's bright red lips parted in surprise. "Ooh, you like to play rough, Mr. Yeager? I can do that, but it'll cost extra." Stop. "Miss, I think you have a wrong idea. I didn't call anyone. Maybe you should try knocking next door." At that, the woman covered her mouth and let out a series of giggles, her chest bouncing distractingly. When she finally stopped, her voice was even more cloying. "Of course you didn't call me, Mr. Yeager. Your good friend, Mr. Marsh did. He sent me here to take care of you. He said you were too shy to let loose in front of your employees, so he asked me to come find you privately." So it was Marsh. Leo finally understood. Marsh must have thought his earlier refusal was just a front for his employees and had thoughtfully arranged for a private session. "Ahem," Leo said quickly. "You can go back. I don't need a massage. I'm about to go to sleep." "What's wrong, Mr. Yeager? I can help you relax. If I go back like this, I won't get paid by Mr. Marsh." She whined, starting to move toward him again. The sight sent a jolt of panic through him, and he practically leaped onto the bed. He grabbed his wallet from the nightstand, pulled out all the cash, and held it out to her. "Take this. We both agree nothing happened. This is for your trouble, and there's plenty extra. Please just go. I really don't need you to stay." The woman looked at his panicked state and seemed to realize he wasn't like the other bosses she'd met. The professional smile vanished from her face. She took the money from his hand, let out a soft huff, and sauntered out of the room, her hips swaying like a snake. The moment she was gone, Leo jumped off the bed, slammed the door shut, and leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. Once he calmed down, the first thing he did was call Mr. Marsh. Marsh answered quickly, his voice barely audible over a cacophony of female laughter and calls of "Boss, come play with us. And stop that, boss, have another drink." "Mr. Yeager," Marsh said excitedly. "How was she? I picked out a new girl just for you. Was she to your taste?" Leo's voice was cold. "Mr. Marsh, when I said I didn't want to go to the lounge or the spa, it was because I'm genuinely not interested in those things. I hope you won't misinterpret my meaning again. I've already sent the woman you called back. Do not arrange anything like this for me again. I have a girlfriend, and if she found out, she would feel very insecure." Hearing the anger simmering just beneath the surface of Leo's tone, Marsh was taken aback. I'm so sorry, Mr. Yeager. I misunderstood. I thought you just didn't want it in front of your employees." "Mr. Yeager, I apologize. I hope this won't affect our business tomorrow." Seeing that Marsh's apology was sincere, Leo softened his tone slightly. "It won't. I know you meant well, but I'm personally just not interested." Of course. I won't disturb your rest any further." After hanging up, Leo took a few deep breaths to calm himself. A thought he'd never had before surfaced in his mind. Did money really change people? In the past, he would never have encountered a situation like tonight's. But he was no longer the boy who had lost his parents and had to live in someone else's home. Now, people called him Mr. Yeager. So, is this how Isabelle's father slowly lost his way? How he became so indifferent to his own daughter? Leo sighed, making a silent vow. No matter what happened, he would never betray Isabelle. She couldn't bear to be abandoned again. Just then, without any warning, there was another knock on his door. Knock, knock, knock. The second knock sent a jolt through Leo's heart. Don't tell me that woman came back. This time, he didn't open the door. "Who is it?" he called out. "It's me, Rex." Hearing Rex's voice, Leo finally let out the breath he was holding. He opened the door to find his roommate standing there, looking furious. "Yeager, you son of a bitch, you did that on purpose, didn't you?" Leo blinked innocently. "Rex, what are you talking about? I thought you went with Mr. Marsh to see the sights. What are you doing back so soon?" "Bullshit. You knew exactly where he was taking us, and you threw me to the wolves." TSK. Are you saying you weren't interested? Rex snorted. If I was interested in places like that, I wouldn't need Marsh to take me. I could have a dozen girls sent to my room in minutes. The reason I don't is because I'm not interested. I may like beautiful women, but I have no time for gold diggers and prostitutes. Leo just chuckled. He had suspected Rex would come straight back to the hotel once he figured out where they were going. All right, your moral fiber is truly inspiring, Leo said, waving a hand. But if you weren't going, why didn't you just go back to your own room? What are you doing here? Get dressed. We're going to meet the president of the Appalachian Mining Consortium. I've already made reservations for dinner. Leo stared at Rex in disbelief, wondering if he'd heard him correctly. Dude, are you for real? Rex shot him a look. Duh. I told you I wasn't bullshitting you. And just like that, Leo, still in a state of shock, was dragged out of his room by Rex. While they were waiting for a car in front of the hotel, Rex's phone rang with a video call. The smug look on his face instantly vanished, replaced by a warm smile. He answered the call. Nora? Hey, I wasn't expecting a video call. A sweet, gentle voice came from the phone. I was just curious what you were doing. The girl, Nora, had a soft, lilting voice, but it didn't sound forced or fake. It was the kind of naturally cute voice you'd hear from main character in an anime. Leo hadn't even seen her face yet, but just from her voice, he understood how Rex had gotten baited so quickly. With a voice like that, if she was even remotely attractive, what guy wouldn't be hooked? It was an indefensible attack. Rex chuckled a little shyly. My roommate invited me to San Francisco for a couple of days. We're just about to head out for dinner. I gotta say, this city is incredible. So impressive. He then flipped the camera and handed the phone to Leo. Here, hold this for me. Sure. Leo took the phone and aimed it at Rex. A rare bashfulness appeared on Rex's face. See, Nora? Pretty cool, right? Yeah, it is, came the voice from the phone. And you look very handsome, Rex. Hearing the compliment, Leo instinctively glanced at the screen. Since the camera was flipped, he knew she wouldn't see him. One look was all it took. He was stunned. Rex had good taste. Before this, the most attractive women Leo had seen on campus, besides Isabelle, were Ruby Yu, Nina Wei, Clara Shun, and Jocelyn Xiao, the senior who had interviewed him. The girl on the screen, Nora, was easily in their league, and her demeanor was just as Rex had described. She seemed shy and introverted, though in a different way than Clara. He couldn't quite put his finger on it. Hearing Nora praise him, Rex could barely contain his grin. But to Leo's shock, he managed to suppress it and adopt a serious expression. When summer break comes, if I get the chance, I'll bring you here. That would be so expensive. It's fine. I can just work and save up money. Leo's eyes widened. Okay, so Rex is playing the broke college kid card. Interesting. He was also curious. Rex never missed an opportunity to show off, but this time he was actively reining it in. After a few more minutes of chatting, Rex ended the video call just as their car arrived. Once they were inside, Leo tilted his head at him. What's with you? Even if you don't want to reveal you're a trust fund kid, you don't have to pretend to be poor. It's not like that, Rex said seriously. I can tell Nora's family doesn't have a lot of money. I don't want to seem too rich and make her feel like there's a huge gap between us. Is she a freshman? Sophomore. But she's a month younger than me. Her full name is Nora Chi, by the way. Leo rolled his eyes. Who asked for her full name? God, you reek of lovesickness. For once, Rex didn't argue back. He just sat in the car, smiling like an idiot. Half an hour later, their Uber pulled up in front of an incredibly high-end private kitchen. Just looking at the ornate exterior was enough to blow Leo's mind. This place was on a whole other level compared to the Pinnacle back in Crestview. Sensing Leo's awe, Rex smiled faintly. They say this place used to be a prince's private dining hall. It's one of the most exclusive restaurants in the city. You can't get a table here just by having money. You have to have status. Holy shit, you really are meeting with the president of the mining consortium. Leo was finally completely convinced. Rex wasn't kidding. Rex just smiled and gestured for Leo to go inside. A waiter greeted them and led them to a set of heavy mahogany doors. Rex knocked once, then pushed the door open. Leo followed him inside and immediately saw him. A middle-aged man sitting in a grand, carved wooden chair. His skin was tanned a deep bronze, weathered by years and the faint scent of coal. His face was rugged, etched with the lines of a life lived hard. Beneath thick brows, his eyes were small but sharp, gleaming with an intelligent light like two black diamonds in the dark. A faint smile played on his lips as he toyed with a heavy gold signet ring on his finger. Before Leo could say a word, Rex shed his usual flippant demeanor. He looked at the man and said respectfully, "Dad, this is my roommate, Leo Yeager." Leo felt his heart skip a beat. Wait, what did he just call the president of the Appalachian Mining Consortium? Dad. He's your dad. As Leo watched Rex respectfully call the man in the ornate chair Dad, his brain short-circuited. His first thought was that Rex had asked his father for help in getting an introduction. But then he remembered the absolute certainty in Rex's voice before they left, the guarantee that he could make it happen, and the truth hit him like a freight train. The reason Rex was so confident was because the president of the Appalachian Mining Consortium was his father. Seeing Leo's stunned, jaw-on-the-floor expression, a triumphant grin spread across Rex's face. It was the look of a man who had been holding in a massive secret for months and was finally letting it all out. Yes, that's the look, Rex thought, ecstatic. I've been getting flexed on by Jaeger for so long, and now it's my turn. This is the exact expression I wanted to see. This feels amazing. He desperately wanted to gloat, to say, "Surprise, bitch, bet you didn't see that coming." But with his father in the room, he restrained himself. Forcing down the urge to rub it in Leo's face, Rex managed a calm smile. That's right. This is the president of the Appalachian Mining Consortium, Harrison Gow. He's also my father. Leo's breath hitched again. He'd always believed Rex was rich, a self-proclaimed trust fund kid. But he had never imagined this level of wealth. So all this time, when Rex had been showing off, he hadn't even been trying. He was a nine-figure heir. Leo remembered back to freshman year when Rex's version of flexing made it seem like his family was worth maybe 10 or 20 million. Now, he realized Rex had never even come close to showing his real cards. With Rex's introduction, Leo managed to pull himself together. He looked at Harrison Gow and said with genuine respect, "It's an honor to meet you, Mr. Gow." "Leo, please come sit," Harrison said, his voice warm. "It gets chilly here in the evenings. Come have some tea I brewed. It'll warm you up." Leo nodded and took a seat next to Harrison. Rex, however, remained standing until his father had personally poured Leo a cup of tea. "Rex, close the door and have a seat," Harrison said. "Yes, sir." Only then did Rex hurry over to close the heavy door before carefully taking a seat on the other side. He picked up the teapot, poured a cup for his father, and only then poured one for himself. He sat ramrod straight, a stark contrast to his usual slouch in the dorm. The scene confirmed for Leo that Rex came from a family with strict discipline. It was a little surprising. It seemed the education of a coal baron's son wasn't as crude as people imagined. The common stereotypes of the nouveau riche, wasteful, mannerless, arrogant, were mostly just that, stereotypes. Truly wealthy families placed a high value on etiquette and their children's upbringing. Preconceptions are a hell of a thing, Leo thought. After they had both finished a cup of tea, Harrison smiled, a disarmingly kind expression for a man worth hundreds of millions. "Leo, my son here, he behaves himself at school. I hope. He hasn't caused any trouble for you or his other roommates. He's been a handful since he was a kid. I wanted him to stay close to home for college, but he insisted on going out of state." Hearing his father's words, Rex flinched. He whipped his head toward Leo, his eyes wide, desperately trying to signal him to be merciful. Leo knew exactly what kind of student he was. He'd even failed a class last year and never told his father. If Leo spilled the beans now, Rex was dead meat. But Leo didn't even glance his way. Rex's heart sank. He suddenly felt like he'd brought a tiger back to his den. Though Leo ignored him, he smiled politely at Harrison. "Mr. Gow, Rex is great at school. When we were freshmen, he really looked out for me and our other two roommates. The three of us come from pretty average families, and Rex was always treating us to meals and letting us borrow his car without a second thought. He might goof around sometimes, but when it comes to the important things, he's solid. That's a credit to you and your wife's guidance. He's a good friend." Rex's jaw dropped. "Holy shit, Godfather. He's describing me perfectly. Keep talking, Godfather, please keep talking." A look of relief and pride washed over Harrison's face. "If that's truly how he is, then I'm relieved. I have 3 sons, and Rex is the one I worry about most. His mother and I had him when we were nearly 40. I've always been afraid of the generation gap between us." He then looked at Rex, his tone carrying a mild rebuke. "Rex, look at Leo. He's your roommate, but he speaks with so much more maturity. You should learn from him, not just how to handle people, but in business too." "I know, Dad. I will." On any other day, in any other place, if someone had said that to him, Rex would have shot back, "I know everything from quantum physics to ancient history. What could I possibly learn from you?" But today, he was the model of obedience. Harrison tapped the table, and as if on cue, waiters began to enter with plates of food. "Leo, Rex, let's eat while we talk." During the meal, Harrison didn't bring up Leo's work or his reason for being there. Instead, he asked about their life at school, their daily routines, and got Leo's opinions on various companies and recent news stories. Leo, understanding the etiquette, didn't bring up business either. As the junior party, It was not his place to initiate. An hour later, when they were nearly finished, Harrison took a sip of tea. "Rex," he said calmly, "why don't you step outside for a cigarette?" Rex froze. "Dad, I don't smoke. You must be mistaken." Harrison shot him an unimpressed look. "Do you dare to turn out your pockets for me? The outline of that pack is as clear as day. Do you think your old man is blind?" Rex glanced down and saw that the distinct rectangular shape of a Marlboro box was indeed visible through the fabric of his pants. "Damn it," he thought. "I'm never smoking these again. You're a grown man now. Whether you smoke or not is your own choice. Just don't overdo it. It's your body." Harrison's tone wasn't angry, just a flat, fatherly admonition. Rex's expression shifted, and he nodded firmly. "Okay, Leo, you and my dad can talk. I'm gonna go have that smoke." "Sure." Leo knew this was Harrison's way of clearing the room for a private conversation. Once Rex had left, Harrison got straight to the point. "Leo, my son told me you were hoping that, through my position as president of the consortium, you could meet some other business owners with deep pockets. Build up your network for when you transition Starfall into a more traditional media company and need to raise capital." "Yes, Mr. Gao. Though before today, I had no idea you were the president." Harrison chuckled. "I'm not surprised Rex didn't tell you. You can probably guess why." "I can." Harrison nodded and fell silent for a moment before continuing. "But this is a favor I can't easily grant. At least, not right now. You understand that for me to introduce you to the other members, you need to have reached a certain level yourself. Otherwise, even if I make the introduction, it won't do you much good. If your standing and resources don't meet their standards, they won't give you the time of day. Then word gets around that Harrison Gao is recommending small-timers, and that creates resentment. But just because I can't help you now doesn't mean I won't help you later. From what I understand, Starfall Media is growing incredibly fast. I don't think it will be long before you meet that standard. When you do, I'll gladly make those introductions." "How does that sound?" Leo was disappointed, but he understood. A man in Harrison's position had to consider things from 100 different angles. To him, Starfall's foundation was still shaky. It didn't have the resilience to survive a major strategic failure. If he introduced Leo to his circle and Starfall suddenly collapsed, it would be a huge loss of face for him. So, he wasn't rejecting Starfall forever, just for now. Thinking it through, Leo nodded. "I understand, Mr. Gao. I was getting ahead of myself. Once Starfall is more established, I'll come to you again." "Good. You're in San Francisco to sign some platform agreements, right? Conrad Shun is in New York helping your girlfriend and her father, but it would be no trouble for me to find you a couple of top-tier corporate lawyers to look over the contracts." "Thank you for the offer, Mr. Gao, but I brought my own team," Leo said with a slight smile. "I was hoping to find an opportunity to visit you in West Virginia, and thank you personally for all your help with my girlfriend's family. I never expected we'd meet so soon." Leo stood and gave Harrison a sincere, shallow bow. "Mr. Gao, thank you for letting Mr. Shin help my girlfriend. I don't have much to offer in return right now, but I promise I will grow Starfall Media, and one day, I will repay this debt." "Leo, you're being too formal." Harrison quickly stood and helped him up. "If you must thank someone, thank Rex. He's the one who fought for this. He and Conrad get along well. The debt is to him, not me." Leo knew that, but he also knew that without Harrison's approval, Rex's relationship with Conrad wouldn't have mattered. Just as he was about to say more, his phone vibrated. He pulled it out and saw an unfamiliar number. He was about to decline the call, figuring he'd call back later, but Harrison waved a hand dismissively. "Go ahead and take it, Leo. No need to be so formal. But, take it. It's good for a young man to be busy. We can continue after." Seeing Harrison's insistence, Leo answered the call. "Hello, who is this?" "Mr. Yeager, it's Felicia phone." "Ms. Phone." Leo was shocked. He never expected the assistant to Chattertee CEO to call him again. Felicia's light laugh came through the phone. "Yes, it's me. Mr. Yeager, I was just calling to see how your considerations were coming along regarding Chattertee's investment in Starfall Media." Leo was silent for a few seconds. "Ms. Phone, personally, myself and several other shareholders are very much in favor of the deal. However, there are 2 shareholders with minor objections. It's not a major problem, and I can get them on board soon. Please let Mr. Xian know that as soon as I resolve this internal matter, I will come to Chattertee in person to sign the agreement." "Excellent, Mr. Yeager. I will pass your message along to Mr. Xia. I heard you're on a business trip in San Francisco. I wish you success. Goodbye." "Goodbye." After hanging up, Leo's mood soured. He had hoped to deal with this after he returned from his trip, but now it was clear he had to act faster. He quickly composed himself and looked back at Harrison Gao. Mr. Gao, shall we continue? But when he looked up, he saw that Harrison's expression had become incredibly strange. Mr. Gao, are you? Leo, who were you just talking to? If I heard correctly, that was the assistant to P15.She, the CEO of ChatterT, right? Yes. Harrison swallowed hard. So, it's true that ChatterT is planning to invest in Starfall Media? It is, but a few of our shareholders are reluctant. I'm still working on it. Hearing Leo's confirmation, Harrison's face transformed. He broke into a wide, ear-to-ear grin, looking exactly like Rex in his most triumphant moments. Leo, I was short-sighted. If you want to meet the other owners of my consortium, you are absolutely qualified. No one would dare look down on you. If you're willing, I can take you to meet them anytime. Leo stared, completely baffled, feeling like he must have misheard. Harrison's sudden 180 seemed to be entirely because he knew ChatterT was investing in Starfall. The setup before the climax ends here. Next, Isabelle returns. The climax and the plot to completely oust Sharon officially begins. Mr. Gao, your sudden change in attitude is giving me a bit of whiplash, Leo said, still completely bewildered. This was Harrison Gao, a titan of industry and the president of a powerful consortium, a man whose word should be ironclad. How could he completely reverse his position in less than 10 minutes? Harrison chuckled, stood up, and walked over to clap Leo firmly on the shoulder. Leo, I won't beat around the bush. My attitude changed because I heard ChatterT is investing in Starfall. Do you know who P15.She is? Anyone in the industry knows how terrifying that young man's vision and ability are. In less than 2 years, he took his college startup project national. Then, in less than a year, he conquered the entire specialty drink market. Since then, every project and company he has invested in has, without exception, seen an exponential leap in value. What's most incredible is that everyone knows ChatterT itself never interferes with these companies. Their growth is entirely their own. Over time, everyone came to recognize P15.She's almost supernatural investment acumen. Now, the moment people hear ChatterT is investing in a project, they follow suit without hesitation. Some smaller business owners will bet their entire fortunes. Harrison's voice grew more excited. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like in ancient times when a retiring emperor announced his successor. The entire court would immediately throw all their wealth and hopes behind the new emperor. So, if you want to meet the coal barons and magnates in my consortium, all you have to do is let them know ChatterT is about to invest in Starfall Media. You won't even have to say a word. They'll see you and trip over themselves to befriend a young man like you. Listening to him, Leo was stunned. He knew ChatterT was influential, but he had never imagined it was this powerful. An investment from them was a golden ticket, a signal for every other major player to pile in. But Leo paused, a thought striking him. Mr. Gao, if it's really like you say, doesn't that create a loophole? Haven't you all considered it? Harrison seemed to guess what Leo was thinking and smiled knowingly. Leo, the things you can figure out in a split second, do you really think those old foxes in the business world haven't? He paused, then articulated Leo's thought. If I'm not mistaken, you're thinking that if the market blindly follows ChatterT's lead, then even a worthless project without a mature team or technology could suddenly be flooded with capital. They could build a business from scratch, simply powered by that sudden influx of cash. Correct. Leo nodded. Yes, that's exactly what I was wondering. Leo, you and Rex are both business majors. Don't you know that's called investment fraud? Leo shook his head. Mr. Gao, it's not really fraud. Let's say Company A gets an investment from ChatterT and the market follows. The problem is, Company A never had a mature team or technology to begin with, so they never actively sought investment. It was ChatterT's move that caused the pile-on. It wasn't Company A's intention to defraud anyone. He expected a detailed explanation, but Harrison just waved his hand. Nobody cares. Seeing Leo's confused look, Harrison lit a cigar before speaking again. Because the situation you're describing would never happen. A behemoth like ChatterT would do exhaustive due diligence before investing in any company. They wouldn't touch an empty shell. Secondly, ChatterT's investment track record is currently 100%. So, for now, nobody is going to worry about those details because ChatterT has already worried about them for everyone. I see your point. Leo nodded. Harrison's explanation was blunt, but it was the truth, which made Leo wonder even more. What was it about Starfall that had caught ChatterT's eye? All right, Leo, Harrison said, his tone warm again. Regarding your request to meet the other owners, you can call me anytime. On one condition. Starfall must confirm the partnership with ChatterT. I heard you mention a few of your shareholders are against the deal. Yes, that's true. but I'll start working on solving that as soon as I get back. Harrison smiled. Leo, an opportunity like this, a partner like Chatter T, it's like a gift from heaven. You can't afford to let it slip away. Leo nodded grimly. This problem wasn't going to be easy to solve. But then again, if you can't solve the problem, you solve the person creating it. Leo, what did you and my dad talk about? Rex asked on the ride back to the hotel. He was practically glowing when we left. I haven't seen him look that happy in years. Leo shot him a sideways glance. I told him we're sworn brothers now. You believe me? Jaeger, you bastard. Are you really trying to make me call you uncle? Rex shot back, launching into a stream of creative insults. Leo just smiled and went back to tapping out messages on his phone. Before he returned to Crestview, he had to resolve this massive issue with Sean Xiao and Don Rin. Back at the hotel, knowing they had an early start, Leo took a quick shower and went to bed. Just before he fell asleep, he received a text from Isabelle. Isabelle, Leo, I'm going to see Dad tomorrow. The next day, Leo, Rex, and the Starfall team got to work. But to everyone's surprise, what they had scheduled for 2.5 to 3 days of work, they finished in a single day. The reason was simple. The company they were meeting with had also heard that Chatter T was about to invest in Starfall. The entire process was incredibly smooth. Steps that would normally require days of negotiation were skipped entirely. The other side agreed to nearly every term and condition Starfall proposed without hesitation. That evening, back at the hotel, Leo and his department managers were still in a bit of a daze. The business manager looked at him tentatively. Boss, so, are we flying back to Crestview tomorrow morning? The work's done. Why would we stay? Leo replied, just as stunned. He had come to San Francisco ready for a battle. Instead, it had been a walk in the park. The name Chatter T was like a VIP pass, making every obstacle simply disappear. This only strengthened his resolve to immediately deal with Sean and Don's opposition to the investment. That night, before going to sleep, Leo sent Isabelle a message. She was seeing her father today, and she hadn't replied to the message he'd sent that afternoon. Leo, did you see your uncle? Are you at the office or home now? He expected it would be hours before she replied, but a response came less than 10 minutes later. Isabelle, I saw him. On my way home now. Leo, how did it go? Did you tell him about the evidence Conrad Chen gathered? How is he doing? Another 10 minutes passed before she replied. Isabelle, yeah. Dad looked worn out. I don't think he's been doing well in there. I'm going to find a way to get him out as soon as I can. Leo could feel the sadness and frustration in her words. He could guess what had happened. She had seen her father, but was powerless to immediately free him, and that feeling of helplessness was eating at her. On top of that, she cared deeply for him. Seeing him so haggard must have broken her heart. He thought for a moment, then called his business manager. Hello, boss? Do you have an assignment for me? Cancel my flight back to Crestview for tomorrow morning. Book me a new one to New York City. The manager instinctively asked, should we all change our flights to New York? No, you all fly back to Crestview as planned. I have personal business in New York. Understood, boss. After ending the call, Leo could hardly wait for morning. He hadn't thought he'd be able to get away to see Isabelle, but now that work was done 2 days early and he'd already cleared his absence with the university, there was nothing holding him back. He was going to fly straight to New York to be with her. Right now, she was probably feeling more vulnerable than ever. If her boyfriend couldn't be by her side at a time like this, when could he? Next, he called Mark Jean. Mark, are you busy? Mark was clearly surprised to hear from him. Leo, why are you calling so late? Is everything okay? Tomorrow, I'm having Preston Bailey meet with you. He'll explain everything. For the next few days, I want you to follow his instructions for all your work at the company. Mark wasn't stupid. His work was never assigned by Leo directly. For Leo to call him this late with such a strange request meant something big was happening. Leo, he asked cautiously, is there something else you need from me? Leo paused. Yes. Whatever Preston tells you to do, don't be surprised. And I don't want anyone else to know what he tells you. He let that sink in before his voice became more pointed. You understand what I'm saying, right, Mark? I understand. Good, Leo said. By the way, that bonus you got for recruiting all those people for us, did you end up buying a house with it? Well, the bonus was great, but not quite enough. I have the down payment saved up, but with the interest, it's like buying the house all over again. I figured I'd save up a little more. It's not like I'm getting married anytime soon. Don't worry. After you finish the work for the next couple of days, I think you'll have more than enough. Mark's voice was firm. Leo, I understand. Don't you worry. With Mark's assurance, Leo hung up. He had already laid out the plan with Preston Bailey. For the next 2 days, even while he was in New York with Isabelle, things in Crestview would be set in motion. By the time he returned, Starfall Media would have a new partner. The next morning at the airport, Leo prepared to head toward a different gate than Rex and the others. Leo, you're not coming back to campus? Rex asked. Nope. You go on ahead. I've got some business in New York. Rex pouted. You bastard, stop trying to act like you're my dad. What's with the face? You seem upset that I'm leaving. Honestly, I was planning to ask Nora-Chi out when we got back. I thought we'd be in San Francisco for 3 or 4 days, but we finished so fast. I'm a little nervous. I was hoping you'd be there to give me a pep talk. Leo raised an eyebrow. Since when is the great Rex Gow afraid of anything? Scared to ask a girl out? Rex blushed. Well, it's my first time. For real. Just be yourself and ask her. Don't overthink it. If a girl likes you, it doesn't matter how you ask. If she doesn't, you could put on a Broadway show and it wouldn't work. Leo glanced at the time. His flight was boarding. He clapped Rex on the shoulder. Anyway, good luck. I gotta go. My girlfriend is waiting for me in New York. You're not even trying to hide it anymore, are you? You friend-abandoning dog. At 10:30 a.m., Leo's flight landed on schedule in New York. As he deplaned, he noticed the sky was a blanket of gray, heavy with dark clouds. It looked like it was about to rain. But even the gloomy weather couldn't dampen his spirits. In an hour, at most, he would see Isabelle. He walked out the jet bridge and called her. Are you up? I'm up, she mumbled, her voice listless. Are you at home or at the office? He asked gently. The office. He bit his tongue, stopping himself from saying he was already in New York and would be at her building in an hour. Instead, he made up an excuse. I ordered you some coffee. It should be there in a little while. Okay, I'll have someone go down and get it. No, don't do that. If you have a minute, you should go down and get it yourself. I sent a surprise along with it. Hearing the word surprise, Isabelle's tone finally lifted a little. What kind of surprise? If I told you now, it wouldn't be a surprise, would it? Anyway, if you have time, go down yourself. If not, it's okay to send someone. Okay, I'll see. Leo, I can't talk long. I have a meeting starting any minute. Everyone's already here. All right, you go handle your business. I'll text you when the delivery arrives. After hanging up, Leo was certain he had come at the right time. Isabelle was clearly still in a deep emotional funk. His plan was simple. If she came downstairs herself, she would see him. If she was too busy and sent someone else, he would try to convince that person to sneak him upstairs. He hailed a cab outside the airport. This address, please. Jonathan, get the car ready. And have Rochelle meet us downstairs. We're going to the office. Sharon Thornton issued the order to her driver. Ever since the birth of her son, she hadn't set foot in the Thornton Industries headquarters, choosing instead to command her loyalists remotely from a luxury postpartum center. Aside from a single visit to her husband, Richard, the other company's shareholders hadn't even seen her face. Today, she was going in person. She had already met with Richard. Now, no matter what that little brat Isabelle tried to pull, it would be useless. More importantly, she had finalized her plan with Landon Archer. Thornton Industries would hold another shareholder meeting today. Before it convened, Landon would publicly announce that several of Archer Enterprises' major projects would now be in partnership with Thornton Industries. The person who had brokered these deals? Sharon Thornton. Simultaneously, an investment firm she had on standby would announce a massive capital injection into those same projects. With Richard gone and no other senior executive able to step up, Sharon would shatter the stalemate. The neutral shareholders, desperate to protect their own interests, would flock to her side. She was confident that everything would proceed according to her plan. She would become the new power at Thornton Industries. TSK. Isabelle, oh, Isabelle, you're still so young. You still haven't realized that Landon Archer, the man you've trusted since you were a child, has been on my side all along. You should be in school, studying, not playing at corporate warfare. Sharon smirked. For the past few days, since UL Investments had entered the picture, she had played the part of the beleaguered victim, letting Isabelle think she had stabilized the situation. But now, the real storm was about to hit. Phew, finally made it. Jonathan, get the car ready. And have Rochelle meet us downstairs. We're going to the office. Sharon Thornton issued the order to her driver. Ever since the birth of her son, she hadn't set foot in the Thornton Industries headquarters, choosing instead to command her loyalists remotely from a luxury postpartum center. Aside from a single visit to her husband, Richard, the other company's shareholders hadn't even seen her face. Phew, finally made it. After nearly an hour in the cab, Leo was standing in front of the Thornton Industries building. He craned his neck, looking up at the skyscraper that housed the entire company. He crossed the street, bought a coffee, and then texted Isabelle. Leo, you free now? The coffee's downstairs. Isabelle, K. Her reply was a single, clipped letter. I guess she was still swamped, too busy to even type out a full word. It would probably be an assistant coming down to get the coffee. He started mentally rehearsing how he would convince them to let him upstairs. As he stood there, holding the coffee, the sky finally opened up. It wasn't a downpour, just a light, steady drizzle that quickly coated the glass facade of the building in a viscous-looking sheet of water. He hadn't dressed for the cold, and a sudden chill ran through him. He looked down, fumbling with the zipper of his jacket. And in that moment, a familiar, sweet fragrance washed over him. Before he could react, a pair of soft arms wrapped around his waist from behind. "You big dummy," Isabelle whispered in his ear. "I knew the surprise was you."